just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of Bloke in a Bar. And you might have woken up today and gone, is the world a bit brighter? Do I love a bit deeper? Is my bond to rugby league a little bit stronger? And you are correct. It is Alex Twal has scored a try. Alex Twal has scored a try. Breaking news, Alex Twal has scored a try. Guru, speak to me.
What a moment, eh? We were out there at the Parramatta game and we all got the text at the same time, just all looked at each other and thought, get the highlights up. We had us and like 8 randoms around us watching on a phone. We all celebrated and cheering. Unbelievable stuff.
Oh, man, he swallowed that up like a life raft in an ocean. He was going to hold on to that.
Clemmer put his hand out and then pulled it so good.
He would have been the villain. The villain. Can you imagine if Clemmer knocked that on? On the replay too, could you imagine if they saw finger flex? Timmy, thoughts on Alex Twal stopping the nation and arguably the world with his try?
Mate, buy rounds are pretty controversial at the best of times because there's a bit of a depletion of probably talent in the NRL at times, and Alex Twal was the shining light that the NRL, rugby league needed in round 16 to brighten up the lives of footy fans. What a moment. On Clem, that should nearly go down as a try assist. That would be one of the biggest moments of his career. Pulling away from that ball and Alex Twal, there's going to be pies flying around this weekend.
Oh, mate. So bloody good. So bloody good. Now, Sportsbet Tracker. Now with Sportsbet, you can track the progress of your same-game multi with the tracker feature. There is now no need to switch between different apps to find stats and numbers relevant to your multi. Everything is all in one place on Sportsbet app. There are also brand new markets you can track, including total player points scored and player A or B to score a try. Follow your multi the easy way with Sportsbet new NRL same-game multi tracker. Only with Sportsbet. Download the Sportsbet app today. I mean, talk about headache. It's almost like a Panadol for punters.
Taking us to the moon, Sportsbet just quietly.
That's unbelievable. I love that. As always, guys, make sure to gamble responsibly. You win some, but you lose more. But that is a friggin' awesome app. Now, let's get into accountability. Proudly brought to you by our partners at Sportsbet. Cowboys defeat the Panthers. We all went Panthers. We all got that one wrong. Roosters defeat the Knights. We all went Knights. Eels defeat Manly. We all went Eels. Got that one right. Storm defeat Tigers. Myself and Timmy went Storm. Matty went Tigers. Sharks defeat Bulldogs. We all went Sharkies. So it's a tie between me and Timmy this week. And the numbers have come in. Matty, what are the numbers for the season?
So Timmy is clear ahead on 9. Denon, you're second with 5. Then Guru with 4. And then me with 2.
Look, I would demand a recount. I demand a recount. I think that there's been some days where some of my votes got changed later in the week that weren't, properly recorded, and I demand a recount.
I'm actually with you, mate. Like, if the gap is only 4, I think that's a G up. Needs a recount. It's at least 6. Even this week, mate, I had a shocker of a week. Still got a dub. I give you blokes opportunities to get an outright win, and you can't take it.
Oh, give me a break. We literally tipped the same things.
Well, yeah, so you're into me about being the office lady, the office man each and every week, and then you follow my tips. It's gone to that point.
Mate, Guru went 0 from 5, they reckon.
I was going to say, I was going 5 from 5. I would have got a Michelle Pfeiffer this week. Would have flown in.
That's brought to you by our partners at Sportsbet. And what an incredible brand new feature, Sportsbet Tracker. Tracking all the progress of your same-game multi. Awesome stuff. As always, gamble responsibly. Let's get into Team of the Week. At number 1, Drinkwater. 2, Tupou. 3, Simonson. 4, we moved Manu from fullback to centre. We just couldn't keep him out of the team, so we've cheated this week. Warbrick. 5, Dearden. 6. At 7, we were argued and debated between Hughes and Hines. It's a democracy, so we went Hughes. But I will say, I love the fact that, yes, he opened the game with an error or two, but and when I was watching with Hines, I was like, oh, no. We're sitting there going, this is going to be a disaster. And I love the fact that he just kept going, kept trying, and eventually he ran for like 200-plus metres, had a couple of try assists, 3 line break assists. And people will say, oh, it was against the Bulldogs. But the same people, if he had played poorly against the Doggies, would have been like, oh, that's so bad. So he can only play what's in front of him. So he did what you would expect against a Bulldog side that isn't, obviously at the Sharkies level. But we went Hughes because, Hughes was outstanding, probably one of his best games of the year. At number 8, the great Alex Twal. And this week, Hungriest player, is Alex Twal. Use code TWAL for free delivery when you spend $15 or more. He was hungry for that try. He's an absolute try-scoring machine, the big fella.
Has there ever been an easier pick for Hungriest Player of the Week?
Oh, mate. He swallowed that up like a big burger. He'd love to get into a few burgers from Menulog, I reckon, the big fella.
Can you just tell how much they all love him too? From the crowd to the fans. You could even see the Melbourne Storm boys sort of like, fair play.
Yeah. Oh, if there's one person we want scoring, it's 12. Even the ref was smiling.
Yeah,
The question now, do the floodgates open?
Mate, there was a great meme on the Punters and Dribblers group, so go and check it out. It's the Undertaker meme where he steps up behind it. Steps up. Who's the wrestler who steps up behind? Anyway, it's the Undertaker creeping up on a bloke, and the front bloke is Ken Irvine. The back bloke is Alex Twal. No, fucking great stuff in the Punters and Dribblers group. And you know what? Miracles have happened, and I think that you can back him in for at least another few meaties over the next few weeks. You get a taste, the floodgates, once they open, the big Twal, you're not going to stop the big fella now. He'll be calling inside balls off the half, pushing fullbacks out of the way. Unbelievable. Brayley at 9. At 10, Damalolo. 11, Crichton. 12, Nikota. 13, Hopgood. 14, Taruva. 15, Butcher. 16, Neem. And 17, the big fella, Hazelton. So, as I said, guys, use code TWAL for free delivery when you spend $15 or more. People are absolutely loving that deal, using it massively. So keep on smashing it, guys. Use code TWAL for $15 for free delivery when you spend $15 or more. Now, news broke over the weekend that Ben Hunt has requested a release from the Dragons. His manager said this: he still cares about the players and the team. He's never once mentioned he doesn't like playing with them, but the management have worn him down. Wow. Hunt then confirmed the club is aware of his release. In and amongst this, the Dragons signed Shane Flanagan, who said he wants Hunt there next year. The Dragons then released this statement. Dragons can confirm that today the club received a request from the management of Ben Hunt for a release from his player contract. This request has been denied. Ben is contracted through the end of 2025 and is a big part of the current and future plans of the Dragons as the club builds towards achieving sustained success in the coming years. We're committed to working with Ben to understand and address his concerns as well. We all have the same goal of building a strong and successful club. And now it is also being reported that Hunt is willing to pay $150,000 to get out of his contract. Obviously, we've all got a lot of thoughts of this, but I'll throw to the great Gurino.
I stand solidly with Ben Hunt. If I was Ben Hunt, I'd be doing the exact same thing. You have a look at last year. I know he didn't win a Dalian medal, but I think that he played well enough to win a Dalian medal last year. Dragons finished 10th. I mean, I don't know what more he could have done for this club for a long time. And I'm at the point of looking at the Dragons going, is it healthy for them to lean on Ben Hunt as much as they do? Is it time for them to cut ties and work out? They've got the players there. They've got Jack DeBellin at 13. They've got Little at 9 who can play them. They've got these young guys to fill fullback, halfback, 5'8". Not all divorces are bad. And I think it's time. I just don't. If it hasn't improved up until this point, and if Ben Hunt's given as much as he has, and I mean, the Dragons as a board, it's just mistake after mistake. I can completely understand why Ben Hunt doesn't want to be there, and I know people say it's disloyal. They've got to meet him halfway, and they're just not, in my opinion. I completely stand with Benny, and I selfishly, I want to see him go somewhere else and win a comp. So if he finishes his career without a premiership, that's a travesty.
Oh, mate. It's a really tough one. It's a really tough one because he did re-sign October 5th last year, so that isn't that long ago. Hook was already under pressure at that stage. I think that this is really a clear case. So usually when a player stops performing well, a club will go, hey, mate, if you want to look elsewhere, we would like you to look elsewhere. And then the pressure gets even more of you better look elsewhere. Then it gets even more. And then they start doing things to try and get rid of you. This is almost the reverse where the club isn't performing and Benny Hunt is going to them and saying, you guys are just not good enough. This is the last few years of my career. And I'm not going to cop it anymore. Now, a lot of things have happened in that since he did re-sign. You've got obviously the presentation. That was after that would have been after. The presentation, so he was one of the only one of 5 players that rocked up to that. But the fact that was so poorly managed, I think would have been oh my God. Then you've got no admin reportedly rocked up to his 300th game dinner, which to me, when I found that out, my mind exploded. And then you've got the sacking of Anthony Griffin. Now, that's not necessarily the issue. The issue was with how it was handled. And at the time, I personally said it was handled extremely poorly. And I thought Anthony Griffin, deserved a little bit better than that, getting sent off. Basically, they sacked Anthony Griffin while the boys were in training. They had 5 people ready to go media day. And then, was it Murdoch Masilla and who was it? The other player that had to... Anyway, another player that isn't a captain having to front questions about their coach that literally just got sacked like 10 minutes ago. And so I'm really torn on this one. Knowing Benny Hunt, and I was with him at the Broncos when he came through, a lot would have to happen for him to ask for a release. He's not that kind of bloke. And I know that's an easy cop-out for people who say, oh, you're Denon, you're always on the player's side. I get it. But I can only go off my experience with Benny Hunt. And for him to say, I'm willing to pay to get out here, and we've also got all the evidence that I just mentioned, I would love to see him stay and honour the contract. Or I would love to see them to meet in the middle and him give the club an opportunity to find a player to replace him. But it's not looking good.
And that's for me, like, to use an analogy, like you're at a party and, the couple there that's yelling and screaming, if that's what they're doing in front of everyone, could you imagine what the car ride home's like?
Mate.
Could you imagine what's going on with the Dragons Monday to Friday to the point where Ben Hunt says, I'll pay $150K to not be here?
Oh, mate.
I think we all, I don't know Ben Hunt personally, but from, yourself, Jarrell, these guys that do, he's a stand-up bloke. I think it's been very evident throughout his career. If he's at the point where he's willing to pay $150K to not be in that room, I think that tells you all you need to know. And I think if the Dragons are fair income, when he leaves, they need to have an exit interview where they say, you tell us where we fucked up. You be brutal and honest, because that's what they need to do, I think.
Timmy, thoughts, mate?
Yeah, pretty similar to Guru on it in that if Benny's asking to leave that contract, I can understand why Dragons fans would be upset. Why wouldn't you? You're losing a player who's been the heart and soul of your side for a number of years now. But he's obviously such a loyal bloke, Benny Hunt. He was with the Broncos for about close to 10 years. He got the big money contract offer from the Dragons, but I believe he still wanted to stay with the Broncos, and they sort of made the decision to throw the money at Anthony Milford. Sweet. So he was not forced out of the Broncos, but essentially could have stayed there, been a one-club man. Went to the Dragons. He's been with them for, 5-6 years, whatever it's been. And I just look at that poor bugger's face after every single game that he plays in a tough 2, 3, 4 years for the Dragons, and he's just so dejected. And why I think, diehard Dragons fans need to cut him some slack, and I hope they do, is because every single game in his entire career for that club, he goes out and busts his ass and gives everything that he can to them. The fact that he re-signed late last year, that's the sticking point. It's like it hurts a little bit.
Yeah, that stings me a little bit.
He's done that, and as you said, Kempy, like Hook, while he has been sacked in the meantime, he was on his sort of last legs at the club anyway, even when he did re-sign, so that kind of come as a massive shock. So that's a disappointing side of it, but I think Ben Hunt has so many runs on the board of being a loyal bloke to his club, to his mates, and all that sort of thing that, I'm disappointed for the club, but I can see why he's doing it.
Yeah, and look, and to be fair, from a fan and club's perspective that are filthy at this, he wasn't always playing this kind of footy when he was at the Dragons. Yeah. There were years when he was playing pretty poor footy, and there were calls for him to get moved on, and he's on too much money, and he still got paid that money. So that's a fair argument. If you go say, hang on a sec, there were at least a year or two where he wasn't playing up to the value of 1.2 or whatever he was on. And I think that's a pretty fair argument. I will say, though, I'm just a bit surprised that the Dragons haven't used this as an opportunity to go, okay, we've got the perfect marketing or goodwill in regards to this is where we just make the big call. Sullivan and Moan are our future. Sloane's at the back. We got Little. Now to our fans, we can say he wanted to leave so they don't look bad. And you know what I'm saying? It's almost... He's not... Look, if a player doesn't want to be there, he's not going to be there long term. It's not going to happen. So I just don't know why they went public with all this in regards to the information and didn't keep it private and say, Benny, we just need time to replace your massive contract. Give us 8 weeks or whatever it is. And then to the fans, they can say, Ben requested a release. We met in the middle. We are diving in with Sullivan, Little, Sloane, and a moan and moving forward like that.
And this is probably example 10,000 of why Ben Hunt's going, this is why I don't want to be there. Why does it have to play out this way?
It's strange. I don't get, like, what do they think that he's just going to roll in and be like, oh, you know what? Like, he has publicly said, can confirm us. Like, this is all in. How often have we ever seen a player come out and say, yes, I have asked for release?
Didn't he text Buzz Rothfield and said, can confirm that I have asked for a release from the club? And that's like, well, Benny's got on the front foot. He said, there's no speculation. Like, this is it. I'm asking for a release.
Yeah. Whereas a lot of the time it's speculation and the player goes into shutdown. He's just said, no, I have asked for it.
And once again, like, to add another layer, like the Dragons, they signed coach Shane Flanagan last week. He's a guy that has won a comp. He's been successful before. I mean, if even getting a coach like him isn't enough to convince Ben to stay, adds another layer to it. It's obviously so much deeper than what it seems.
Yeah, there must be. Yeah, look, I get from a perspective of a fan being like, you know, we stuck by you in those couple of years. I get that, but I think that fans should probably be more angry at their admin than at Benny Hunt.
Yeah, I'm with you. Don't misplace the anger.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying tee off at the Dragons admin, but I don't think Benny Hunt's too far at fault on this. Maybe he doesn't re-sign last year if he was so uncertain, but as we said, boys, big things have changed, and this is only what we know about.
Yeah. So I wish that they could make it work, because I hate to see a player walking in and asking for a release from a contract that he only signed 6 months ago. It just doesn't matter how you square away, unless there's some hectic shit that's happened. But we don't know that. We don't know that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how you try to square it away. Asking for a release after, about 8 months after re-signing a 2-year deal, it's not ideal. It's not good.
Look what Benny Hunt's done at that club. He's played 116 games in 5.5 seasons, so he's missed very, very few games. Plays Origin every year, generally plays big minutes, and he backs up for them. I feel like last year and different times, they've been on 2-day turnarounds, and Benny Hunt backs up every time, doesn't whinge, doesn't ask questions like, nah, my club need me, I wouldn't even think about not playing. I feel like he's given so much to the club. So, yeah.
I think there could be an argument to be like, well, you know, they got hooked to the club, they signed, you know, players that Benny Hunt kind of approved of, so in a time where we need Benny to be just hang on for a little bit longer to get us our admin sorted, we're not getting that from him. I can understand fans saying that, because, you know, he did get support with the Anthony Griffin signing and Andrew McCulloch and Josh McGuire and a lot of those ex-Broncos that came down. But when your club is run as poorly at the moment as it is, unfortunately, the Dragons, he's got, what do you reckon, 3 years left in his career? 3 or 4 max?
It's 32 now, so
it's 32, 3 or 4 years. Every year that goes by is another year he doesn't go out the way he clearly wants to, and that's winning a comp.
Yeah, and I mean, like, if you want to look at it glass half full, the Dragons as an organisation are sitting there with a fantastic chip now, going in there and saying, hey, they could go to multiple clubs and go, this could be a premiership here for you, Ben Hunt. I'm very interested to see what they get in exchange for Ben Hunt.
Yeah. I'm really interested to see how they handle this. Now, maybe this is a posturing in regards to they were always willing to meet halfway, but they're going to posture publicly so that clubs don't go and lowball them. Because if they say, oh, yeah, we're happy to talk, then clubs go, all right, they're open to it. Whereas if they publicly come out and say, nah, he's going nowhere, then other clubs are going to be willing to offer more to try and get him. If that's the case, that's just good negotiation. That's smart business management. Unfortunately, we just have seen quite a few errors in management over at least the last 6 months or so.
He'd look great in lime green, Kempy.
He would look. I don't know if he's going to go down to that cold.
We've got the position ready for him. We've got the money available. Summer's a nice time in the capital. He can spend his off seasons there.
Summer's too hot. It's too bloody hot and dry.
I tell you what, the Raiders we'd treat him with the respect that he deserves. He'd fit right in.
I think hearing that no one rocked up to his 300th, that is rife.
For context, 2 weeks ago at the Raiders for Croak's 300th, had a few things on the Friday night, but they put a big function on for him on the Saturday night, and every man and his dog that could get into that place was there.
Yeah, and flying interstate to do
support him. Yeah, it's like legends everywhere. Like I said, admin within the club, and that this isn't so much common on the Dragons, but that's what it could be. Like, it should be.
That's what it should be. And no admin turning up. And apologies if that report is incorrect, but fuck, that's tough. And it's not like it's out of we've seen quite a few stuff ups over the last whatever months. We have to look back. It was only 12 months ago that Bud Sullivan wanted to leave, Tyrell Sloan wanted to leave. Like, they've just released Kerr. So, like, this is not a happy place at the moment. Like, it really isn't. So, yeah, I'm just torn. It's that re-signing in October that just makes me go, ooh, I understand why Dragons fans would be pissed. Yeah. If it had been like signed 4 or 5 years ago,
yeah,
different.
And you can be old school and say this, that, you signed a contract, honour it. In a perfect world, yes. Unfortunately, that's just not the current day sporting contract. If you want out of it, you can get out, and players do it all the time, and
clubs do it all the time.
Clubs do it all the time as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Clubs do it all the time, so works both ways.
Like, they let go McGuinness when he was like one of the, I think he was their captain, or was he co-captain? Captain. They said, mate, don't want to re-sign you, and maybe he was coming off contract. I'm not sure, but I'm sure the Dragons over the last few years. I mean, they sacked Mary McGregor. And he had a couple of years, I think, to go, or a year to go on his contract, and he didn't want to leave. Yeah. They obviously sacked Anthony Griffin this year, so it's like, and
So McGuinness was off contract, but apparently the Dragons failed to even make a legit offer. So
like, that's, wow. He would be so helpful that side right now. Okay. Let's talk about where he could land. Been a lot of mail around Titans, a lot of mail around the Bulldogs. Where do you boys reckon you'll land?
Yeah, I think both those spots are big. I'm still not ruling out the Roosters, though. I still think he's a really good chance to land at the Chooks.
Geez, that changes that team.
I'm 100%, and that's what I'm saying. Like, the Dragons could go to the Roosters and go, hey, this could be your ticket to a premiership. Having Ben Hunt there could change everything. I think Canterbury, to have a spine of Reid, Hunt, Burton playing his actual position, Critter at fullback, if that works out, I reckon that could be very, very dangerous. I'd love to see that.
Timmy?
Yeah, it makes me crook to say it, but it's just got Roosters written all over it, doesn't it? They do it every time. There's been conjecture about their halves. They're having a poor season, and there's talk about, clean outs at the end of the season, whether someone like Sammy Walker stays and a few other big names, they can make moves to find money in the cap to get Ben Hunt. And as you said, Guru, at 32, 33 years old, whatever he is, he'll want a premiership. Like, simple as that. So, I've got a bit of a short list of clubs just off the top of the head that I've thought, there's spots available, or it could happen. And the one that stands out in terms of premiership window is the Sydney Roosters. Uncle Nick will make it happen, pull a few strings. So I can see it landing there. I don't think the Doggies are out of the question, and it sounds funny now, especially coming off the loss on the weekend and talking about him wanting a premiership. But, we've said for a while now, the Bulldogs are building. Don't stress about it this year, but I think even if not next year, the 2025, with the blokes that they've got coming in, they've had a tough run this year with injuries and a few other things going on, but I think Ben Hunt could go there and turn them into a top 4 contender. So I think the Doggies, with a bit of money to play with, I think they're a genuine option.
I mean, you boys, you claim to have your ear to the ground. You claim to have your ear to the ground in rugby league, but you clearly have missed one mighty club. It's the Brisbane Broncos. He plays 9. He comes in, I know he doesn't want to play 9 at the Dragons. He comes in, top of the table. Who's top of the table right now? Premiership window. You come in, you play 9, Benny. You play 9 and we win a premiership. That's what I'm hearing. Have you guys heard that?
From you, yeah. Many times.
All jokes aside. Look, Roosters, you do look at them and you go, Cooper Cronk 2.0 pretty much. Now, obviously, Cooper Cronk is more established in regards to origins and all that kind of stuff, but it does seem like they've got this crazy roster. They're just missing that key player.
When they want someone, they get someone.
They always get them. Titans, I think that he could go there if it's more of a lifestyle choice, like he wants to live in Queensland. What are you smirking at, Guru?
Oh, no, I was actually laughing the other day. There was that report that surfaced last week about the Roosters were going to get Mitchell Pearce back. And I remember I had a guy on Instagram that messaged me, sent me that and goes, this is a diversion tactic to get Ben Hunt. And I sort of went, oh, yeah. And I sat there for a minute and I thought, is that? It's probably not as crazy as it seems. Wouldn't shock me. Because I think if I had to pick where my favourite for him to land would be, it would be the Roosters right now.
There are whispers, though, that he wants to be in Queensland. And if that is the case, I just wonder, like, do Dolphins... Like, because I'm surprised Dolphins haven't been even mentioned.
You can make a case for all 4 of the Brisbane clubs. I didn't have Brisbane on my shortlist because I just didn't want to put that idea and the Roosters in my head at the same time, especially early on in the podcast. But Dolphins, I have an idea what his relationship's like with Wayne Bennett, but we know they've got a bit of a war chest to use. They've been terrific this season. So, again, premiership window comes into question there, but...
They got Herbie, Flegler, Benny Hunt.
Yeah, but a logical fit there. The Cowboys, I don't know what the plans are with Chad long term, but as you said, Queensland, there's got to be an opportunity there. All right, they haven't been good this year, but they made a prelim last year, and they've still got the same structures, the same bones in the side to potentially compete, say, next year.
Yep.
So I think the Titans, again, like Foran, Helen, he last 4, you can make an argument there. They do have a lot of halves, though, so... He could end up at any of the Queensland sides quite easily.
Can I throw one other little smoky out there? West Tigers, next year to be coached by Benji Marshall. They played together for a season at Brisbane. So I wonder if... And obviously Luke Brooks leaving. It wouldn't be my pick for Ben Hunt, but I wouldn't be ruling that out either.
I think if he ends up at the Tigers, he gets a massive $1.5 million contract.
Yeah.
Because, like, going there, even though their roster is substantially better, it's just like, you just don't know. Yep. You just don't know. And I don't think he wants to go through that turmoil again.
I want to see Ben Hunt go somewhere where he can win a premiership tomorrow.
So let's talk about it. The Raiders. We've got a pack that'll get him on the front foot. We're just a well-organised club. We'll look after him, as I said. Jackie Wyden's leaving. We've got a half spot and $1 million up the sleeve and then some to throw at Benny Hunt. Why not the nation's capital?
Oh, my God. If we're here in Whistles, he wants to live in Queensland. There's no way he's living in the nation's capital.
There will not be a harder worker in this country than the Canberra Raiders heater the day that Ben Hunt comes to visit.
Mate.
My God.
They'll have staff just like,
keeping him warm. Look, it has thrown the market, because it's bizarre because he's asked for a release, he's been public about it, and yet clubs still at the moment aren't allowed to make him offers. So it's like this like murky water of like, he's getting offers, guys. Let's not kid ourselves.
There'd be pigeons arriving at the residence.
There's people meeting in car parks, having chats and check it and say, leave your phones in the car. But yeah, be really, mate, I talk about interesting for content over the next bloody 3 months. All we're going to be talking about is where does Ben Hunt.
Do you think Brisbane are a legitimate chance to get him?
He doesn't want to play 9. He doesn't want to play 9. So you only really, like, maybe you go Reynolds and Hunt in the halves, but I don't know. Or maybe he is the one to replace Renault. But I think they're on top of the table. The piss off Mam or Reynolds. Walters has been playing good footy. I know he's not Ben Hunt, but, I don't know.
I get that Ben Hunt doesn't want to play hooker, but surely if there was any position where he'd be happy to play hooker, surely it's to go back to Brisbane, right some wrongs, and win the comp he should have won there.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I would love that.
I'd actually enjoy that too.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, first of all, we probably don't have a cap for him. Like, as in, we're not going to be able to give him $1 million. And also, like, yes, we're on top of the table right now, I'd say we're in a premiership window, but we haven't played any finals footy yet with this roster. With this roster, we haven't played any finals footy, so it's still much further away from a premiership than, say, a Roosters even though Roosters have been not good this year. You know what I mean? Like, there's still a lot of questions with that Broncos roster.
And with the talent coming through, like, you can imagine, I don't know where they're all at in their contract situations, but Ezra Mam, Reece Walsh, like even Haas, Carrigan, so many stars.
Moser,
Cobbo. There's got to be a lot of upgrades coming soon. Like, if they can whack Benny Hunt on $1 million on top of that, maybe he's obviously done well out of his career. Maybe takes a bit of unders to go somewhere that he really wants to be. But
I guess it just really depends on how much he wants to win a comp. I mean, talk about narrative and yarn. If he went back to the Broncos and won a comp after everything that happened, it'd be one of the great stories of rugby league ever. But at the moment, mate, it's probably Roosters are the front runner, because when they want their man, they get it. They just do.
How good will Anzac Day be next year for these Chalks?
My God. It's going to be interesting to see how the Dragons handle this, because there will be a subset of like Sullivan, Amon, Sloan going, we can be the guys, we can step up. And if they're continually like, nah, we're not letting him go, that maybe piss off the competitor in them and be like, what, you don't have faith that we can move forward with the spine that we've got?
You sort of wonder, like my initial thought is, right, get through the season with them, mate. Like finish the job, get through it, they can make plans in the meantime, building towards next year. But Guru touched on it before. If it is inevitable that he's going to leave and it gets to that point, do you just cut him now? And as you said, go with Sullivan and Moan and go, boys, here are the keys. Let's build for next year.
You're probably earlier the better because they're not going to play finals footy this year. And also, you can see Sullivan and Amone play together and know where to spend that cap money as well. Whereas, like, going into next year without seeing Amone, Sullivan playing a few games together and Little, you're not. Where do you spend the money? You're not as sure. Whereas if Sloane, Amone, Sullivan and Little do an admirable job, you go, okay, we spend it in the forward pack. If they struggle, we go, this isn't the guys going forward for us.
What's Shane Flanagan doing right now? Is he in the coaching staff?
He's with Manly until the end of the year, I'm pretty sure. Thoughts on the Flanagan signing?
I like it. I think Dragons could have only signed X amount of coaches. Realistically, they've managed to get one of the few that's available that has won a comp. As much as it's all doom and gloom for the Dragons at the moment, Shane Flanagan was in a worse spot with Cronulla. Managed to win a comp 2 years later or whatever. So do I think Flano's in that Bellamy sort of class? No, I don't. But I think he's a good pick for them.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
I like it. He spent time down around the club for a few years there. He's got plenty of runs on the board. He's a premiership winning coach. It was a really interesting one. So, a relatively probably polarising character in the game over recent years for a stack of different reasons. And, what's he like as a bloke? What's he like as a coach? All these sort of things. I was actually playing some local footy in the Shire 2 years ago or something. I think it was the second major COVID year. And Flano came down to training one night and just started helping out and doing bits and pieces there. I'm like, that was really cool to have like such a bloke with his credentials helping us out. And he ended up coming down, I think it was every second week for the entire season of a Tuesday night, just because he had a bit of spare time.
Yeah, wow.
He had no strong affiliation to the club or anyone there. There must have been in somewhere, but I had no idea what to expect from him. Lovely, lovely bloke, just loved his footy and wanted to give back and help out. Now, I know we're talking about NRL level, it's a completely different can of fish, but I think that probably says a fair bit about his character. That's where he's spending a freezing cold Tuesday night helping out local footy.
Has he still got your number? Might need a halfback.
Mate, fullback after the performance under the high.
All right, now store shout-outs. The following stores are running a special bloke giveaway for State of Origin 2. So listen closely, guys. They're running a special bloke giveaway for State of Origin 2. Get down to these local stores and buy a case of bloke beer to receive your bloke prize. Lake Macquarie Hotel, Morisset. Celebrations, Cameron Park. Killarney Vale, Botolo. Tenambit, Botolo. Porters North, Narrabeen. Celebrations, Adamstown. Botolo, Wickham. Botolo, Lambton. Botolo, Narara. Grange Hotel, Wyoming. Y Cellars, Katara Celebrations, Georgetown Cellars, Wamberal Celebrations, Specs Liquor Greta, Rutherfield Hotel, Penrith Super Cellars, Foresters Beach Celebrations, North Wyong Celebrations, East Tokley Celebrations, Glenorrey Celebrations, Heritage Hotel Wilberforce, Chittaway Bay Tavern, and IGA Gilliston Heights. Every single one of those stores is running a bloke beer special. So get down, support your local, and as we always say, the more you buy, the better we go with these different banners, the more we can put into more stores to make it easy for you to grab a case of the unofficial beer of rugby league. But I think it's the real one. Now, don't forget to watch State of Origin exclusively live and free on 9 Now. As we said last time, record-breaking numbers for Origin 1. And they struggled a bit with the service initially, so hopefully they got that all sorted. I think they will. But make sure to watch it live and free on 9 Now. Let's break some more records, baby. Let's break some more records. And that means you can watch it on your browser. You can watch it on your phone with the app. Plenty of ways to watch it. Latrell Mitchell ruled out for New South Wales. Crichton comes in. Burton 18th man. Let's talk about New South Wales first this time. Boys, how do you see this going for the Blues?
I'm hopeful, as I always am, but I am very nervous going to Suncorp. When we named our team last week and the name Latrell Mitchell was there, I felt a little glimmer of hope. When he got ruled out, it's not very often I'm sitting on the lounge and I throw my phone in the corner. But I'll tell you what, that was fucking one of them. I was beside myself when Latrell got ruled out. I'm not saying we can't win. I just think it's going to be very, very tough up there going in with new combinations. I didn't see the Mitch Moses selection coming. I don't necessarily hate it. I didn't see it coming though. I think I can understand where Freddie's coming from. Picking Mitch Moses, I'm just not convinced he's going to be the guy to go up there and get it done at Suncorp.
Would you have gone Garrett?
I would have gone with Adam Reynolds. And am I confident he would have been the guy? No, I'm not. But I think he would have been more likely to get it done. But as we always say, halves, they hit that 27, 28 years of age and they turn a corner. Hopefully this can be that moment for Moses. And I really hope it is. Moses was such a prodigy coming through the June. Like you would have played against him and he was unbelievable coming in. You know, went through all the shit at the West Tigers, made his way to Parramatta and he's built himself up to be a fantastic and a really well-rounded halfback. He's not the highlights kid anymore. I love Moses' game now. I'm just not convinced if this is going to play out as I hope, if I'm honest.
One thing that I didn't think of with the selection is how close he is with Teddy.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that when it happened. But he is essentially like their best mates.
I'm sure it would have played a role. I have no doubt about that.
And, you know, what was the one big complaint we all had for game one? It was like Teddy and Cleary just weren't clicking. So maybe there's that positive that Teddy and Moses definitely can play together.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they're good mates, but they wouldn't have played a game of footy together in 6 years maybe? If so, what is it? So, like, I get where you're coming from with that, but I still, I don't know. Even like it's going to be his first ever game with Jerome Luai.
That's going to be interesting.
It's going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So, I wonder if Cody Walker having that injury the other day, if that changed things. But I'm sure, you know, we all heard the same thing leading up to this selection, that it was always going to be Mitch Moses, which really surprised
That surprises me. The yarn that he was not already selected, but he was the front runner going into that weekend, that surprised me.
And I think it played out very well for Brad Fittler, if that is true, which I believe it was, that Adam Reynolds came out on the Friday night, had an absolute shocker, scored the match-winning try, but had a shocker.
At least in the first half. Second half, he was okay.
It was the worst half he's played in quite some time.
Yeah.
And I'm the biggest Adam Reynolds lover of all time. Nico then came out and had a shocker. And then Mitch Moses put on a show on the Monday or whatever it was. So I think the Blues could then push the narrative of these guys played themselves out. Moses played himself in, but from my understanding, it was always going to be Mitch Moses anyway.
What do you reckon?
I'll say one thing on the Moses-Luai combination. I think in a lot of regards it's a pretty natural fit because they're both, like Luai's left edge at Penrith, he plays left edge for the Blues. Moses is a right side dominant for the Eels, he'll play right side for the Blues. Now, neither of them really sort of jump and skip between either edges. They're both pretty dominant on their chosen sides. Mitchie will sometimes go over to the left, but not really. If you bring in someone like Nico Hines or if Cody Walker was to come in there, that can really kill the flow in that they both like to roam both sides of the field as halves. So I just think Luai and Moses, I don't think their roles honestly that change too much when it goes from club to origin level because of that and where they play on the field. So I think it can work.
To add another layer to it, if you said who's the closest thing to Nathan Cleary, I think it's definitely Moses. When you're comparing Adam Reynolds and Nico Hines, I agree. I think Hines would have been too much. I think he's too on ball. You look at, you know, game one, how he had the problems with Teddy and Cleary. I just don't know how this whole team would have gelled with Nico Hines. And I think realistically, as soon as it was a potential for him to be the New South Wales halfback, I don't think his performances have been up to scratch to take it. So I would have gone with Adam Reynolds, but I can understand why Freddie's gone with Moses.
It's a bit hindsight hero kind of stuff, but again, Nico Hines, that was his first year at 7 in NRL. Like, we're talking about a position that usually takes 5 or 6 years of NRL before we start going, fully rounded out game. And so to give, I guess, even though Nico would have wanted to be there, but to cut him a bit of slack in regards to, he's probably struggled. He was, he definitely struggled against the Storm, had a rough start, then came back into the game and had some ups, but also some downs against the Doggies. And as we said, like, it is the Dogs, so it's hard to gauge exactly where they're at. But I guess to cut Nico some slack, it's literally, he's not even 2 years into his 7 role.
Oh, 100%. And I think that's a lot of
even
people
talks
have
about it.
ignored that.
Yeah, yeah.
He's played 40 games of halfback in the NRL.
It's wild.
It is what it is.
Imagine how good he's going to be. Imagine what he's going to be in 4 or 5 years. That's when I think, put it this way. If you can win Dally M's half in your first year, that's when you really could be putting pressure on Cleary in regards to, think about how good he can get, Nico Hines.
And as confusing as it might be, and I don't completely understand it, but I think it's like Fittler obviously had a plan coming into this series. And I think that if you go from Cleary to Nico, if you pick Nico Hines, you have to play Nico ball like Cronulla do. It is, he plays both sides of the rucks, he's popping up everywhere. Your guys just manoeuvre around him. And I question if this would have fit that New South Wales side, which I think is a big reason why they have gone for Mitch Moses.
And that's where you go to combinations. Nico coming in, that throws Luo's game out of whack, because then all of a sudden he's got Nico coming over to this edge and sweeping out the back of him. It's like nothing changes there with Mitchy Moses.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, I mean, what a moment for Mitchy Moses. What a moment. This is the time. This is the opportunity.
Well, this is it. And for me, I'm the biggest Nath Cleary fan in the world. If he wins this game and then wins game 3, that's his jersey now. In my opinion, that if Mitch Moses goes up to Suncorp without Latrell and finds a way to win this and then wins game 3 and wins this series, it is Moses' jersey to lose now.
We're getting a long way ahead, but with Nathan Cleary game 1 next year, or with, let's say, Jerome Luai does it with him?
It's a big question. I don't know.
Well, I was going to ask the same thing.
If Mitch manages to do this, he's my 7.
I think that if Mitch manages to do this, I agree with you. It is his jersey to lose, but he would, he wouldn't be as solidly cemented, I guess, as Cleary maybe was heading into this year, if you know what I mean. Like if Moses comes out and has some average games, I think it's more tenuous to keep that position. But if he wins this series, you absolutely... And look, if he wins this series and goes out and plays solidly for the start next year, you absolutely can't drop him. Like, the situation the Blues are in.
To be honest with you, if he goes out and wins these next 2 games, I'm not too fussed what he does next year. It's doing it in this arena.
Really? Wow.
And then you go like, you could have I know it probably doesn't quite mesh perfectly, but all right, if you're picking our best players, you have a Moses and Cleary combination beyond. If Moses wins this series, that means Jerome Luai's won this series. Yeah, I know,
exactly.
So you can't drop him either.
And Jerome has, continued to prove people wrong.
Very nice headache to have next year.
What a headache it would be. Yeah. Be begging for that headache.
Well, again, we always forget, like, Joey was coming off the bench or named at 9 for Origin for periods, and he's your greatest ever Origin player. Well, arguably anyway.
Yeah.
So, me personally, I've been warming more up. I know I sound crazy, to Cleary at 9. I have been. I just have been. Because like the Ben Hunt did it with Queensland, worked really, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. It just gives your team so many options on the bench. Like you basically get to have exactly what you want on the bench, whether they're worried about.
Yeah. And on the other side of the coin too, I mean, if Mitch Moses does manage to get this done, some credit to Freddie for 2 years ago when it was a dead rubber and it was game 3 and everyone said, pick Adam Reynolds and it makes the most sense. He went, I'm going to give Mitch Moses some experience. He's now going to Suncorp trying to save this series, not making his Origin debut, which is huge.
Yeah.
Do I think that's how it's going to play out? Personally, no. But if it does, full credit to Freddie for making that tough decision that we all gave him shit for 2 years ago.
Yeah, it's far out. It's going to be tough. If Moses does get the job done, like, you're pretty much right. Like, Moses isn't going to come out and play poorly next year because he's got rid of that in his game. He's been so consistent for at least, 3 years now, you reckon? So it's like, there's no way you could take the jersey off him. Like, there's just no way. This is like, although it's not as crazy as 2020 for the New South Wales, it's one of the biggest tests New South Wales have faced since, what do you reckon, fucking 2014?
Yep.
Like, and even then, like, Queensland were missing Cronk on the game 3. Yeah, it'll be a big deal. Far out, it'll throw so many things in the wall. It's almost like a headache that you don't want to have to a degree. You know what I mean? Because you've got to be the guy. If he wins this one, then goes out and plays poorly in the next series, then you idiot. Like, Cleary's won 3 series. He's only won series.
It goes down in folklore of that series that you dropped Nathan Cleary and.
Yeah, exactly. Like, even remember when Darius was playing really well and they picked Darius over Billy Slater and everyone's like, you idiot, blah, blah, blah. And then anyway. So, yeah, the more I thought about the Moses one, I mean, I still would have gone, after the weekend's performances, I still would have gone Moses because I just thought the other players just struggled a little bit. But the idea that he already had that jersey to me is surprising because then if that's the case, then Hines shouldn't have been picked in first game, and he should have put someone else's 14.
If you were picking the Blues team at the end of last round, you would have gone with Moses?
Yeah. And I was a Hines guy, so I was like, Hines is next man up. He got selected. If Cleary was injured before game 1, Hines would have got that jersey. But again, after that game, it was just like, it's tough. If it wasn't a decider, you could go, okay, it's not a decider. It's game 1. He can bounce back. But because it's just one game up at Suncorp, it's like you need someone most likely at the very least it's been there before. And Moses played really well. So now, thoughts are obviously Critter in for Latrell. Isn't it funny how...
What a series for Crichton. Doesn't get picked in either game.
But
Plays both. Yeah.
Again, the Campbell Graham situation just...
Like, he was the third choice centre for game 1.
It just gets weirder.
Now he plays game 2. It's unbelievable.
It's the Campbell Graham's, it just gets weirder. Because now Campbell Graham's, fourth in the pecking order. Yeah. And yet he's been the best outside back.
Changed in the space of 2 weeks that when Campbell Graham was the first choice pick, that he now gets demoted further down the order. Critter obviously went in and played Origin 1, so Freddie obviously short enough there to say, no, I want you, not Campbell. But 2 weeks ago, Campbell was the number 1 pick at centre.
He was
I should say number 2 coming on as a...
He was putting pressure on Tom Trbojevic.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought that he should have been selected over Tommy. But I know you didn't think Critter played well game 1. I thought he played pretty well.
I think what happened with that and copped a bit of stick in the comments, which is fine. I'm happy to be roasted. But I think you boys sort of saying that he was one of the Blues' best players, and I sort of thought, I thought he was okay, but there's just and I heard a few people sort of say, even outside of sort of Bloke and that he was one of our best. He made 5 errors and had 2 or 3 tries down his edge. Not all directly his fault. I just thought when people were saying he was one of our best players, I thought that was a stretch.
Now, Tedesco at the back, obviously Moses. The number 9 situation. There's whispers coming out that Robson will start. Do you believe those whispers?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. Really wouldn't surprise me.
I don't mind it. I actually don't mind it.
I don't mind it. If Appy was available, who do you think they would have
Appy and Cook probably.
Yeah, they would have gone with 2 hookers.
I think so. Appy and Cook, yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I said it a few weeks ago. I personally would have probably rathered Cam McInnes than Reece Robson. That's the side that I would have gone for. But Reece Robson, his form over the last year has been incredible. I think there is a good chance that he does start. Do you use him as just a middle forward later, or does he? Yeah.
He can be your Cotter. I look at them and their physiques look the same. Cotter played the way Reece Robson played in hooker when he was hooker. I just see the same kind of player.
I don't think he's quite at Cotter's level, personally, Robson. But we'll see how he goes through the middle.
Yeah, I don't know about if he's at Cotter's level. What I mean there is he can play the role Cotter plays for Queensland similarly. I think he could play in the middle there as a front rower if he had to. I think that he's actually leading the dummy halves 4 metres run in the competition right now. So his running game, technically is the best in the comp in regards to meterage. So that shows he's pretty good in contact.
That's where I would have gone Cam McInnes, for sure.
What about you, Timmy?
Yeah, I'm happy enough with Robson. I'd start him. I'd play in the first 25 minutes, get through the tough stuff, and that's absolutely not because Cook can't do it. He's a terrific defender for not the biggest body, but do the hard stuff early, do his job. You get Cookie coming on to a few tired Queensland legs, quick in around the ruck. He can do some damage there, and I'd look to be playing Cook sort of 55 straight, and then Robson, he might play 25 minutes. That might be it. But then the options there, that back end of the game. We've got a 4-forward bench now. Udakamanu, Murray, Martin, as it's named. You've got some big minute forwards there. So if you need Robson to come back and play some time through the middle later on, so be it. But if not, he might be 25 minutes as a starter, done and dusted, which is fine.
Yeah, I like Robson, and I would leaning towards starting him because if I hadn't seen what Harry Grant does in Origin, I would probably start with Cook because he's been there 80 minutes. But Harry Grant is just so damaging because he's so fresh. He's so fresh when he comes on. And a fresh Cookie through the middle, that's scary. That is, he is the fastest number 9 in the competition. And, speed kills, fatigue. So I'll actually probably go Reece Robson and say, mate, we want you to go out there and make 1,000 tackles and just pass the ball. We don't need any running unless obviously it's so obvious. And just give good service. We just want good service. I think Cam Smith actually said that he reckons Reece Robson has the best service. Did he say that? He thinks Reece Robson has the best service in the comp, or one of the best service in the comp. I think he said that on the last. I think it was him. Anyway,
A thing or two about good service.
so I would like to start Robson, and as I said, just get involved in the physicality of it, and imagine how good his defense is going to be when he only needs to play 25 minutes. Like the line speed will be off its head. Thought on, I don't think this is going to stay the same, but they've named Frizzell and Young to start. I would bet my house that doesn't exist that Martin starts.
Yeah.
No way, surely not.
Bet Bloke Studio on it.
No, I'm not going to do that.
I need Bloke Studio more than you need it, I think. I think that Liam Martin will start. So I'm stoked that Hudson Young's been given another opportunity. I thought that Freddie, the way that he pulled Hudson Young and TPJ, I didn't think it was great in game one. TPJ was okay with him missing this side, but Hudson Young, I'm really glad that he gets another shot. I think that people were very quick to jump down his throat when he made mistakes the other night. There's been plenty of great Origin players that have had poor game ones, and I've seen heaps worse than Hudson Young. And I think he's still going to be a very good Origin player for a long time to come, Hudson.
Who do you see starting, Timmy?
I think Liam Martin will start. I don't know what edge. I would say probably
Left.
comes on the left edge and Hudson comes off the bench.
Yep.
Like Martin can play both edges, so it doesn't really matter which way he wants to go, but I think that probably makes sense. And
I like Hutto on the bench more than starting because however the game pans out, you can play him in the middle. Like he's easily big enough to be a front rower. And so you just wait and see like how is the game playing out.
One thing I'm sort of learning with more and more footy that I watch is just the importance of an ability of the best defenders in a game to turn the game with their defence. And you look at like a side, like I look at game one with Liam Martin coming off the bench, and I'd start him as well, but he came on and was just whacking blokes. And when Queensland had momentum through the middle, he'd start turning that momentum by getting dominant tackles and just sending him back the other way. And it's a bloke who I'd been not critical of in the past, but sort of saying, Jake Jaboy is a very good player, but he only offers X amount in attack. We know he's a great defender. But then you see like Manly's win-loss record without Jake Jaboyevich, and then Gerbo came in last year and had an immediate impact for the Blues. Just what Jake Trbojevic offers defensively to just turning a game back in Manly's favour or the Blues' favour, and what good defensive players can do. And Liam Martin did in game one, and I can't wait to see him do it again in game two.
Yeah, our best defensive players do not get enough credit. Like they don't get anywhere near the credit that they deserve, and it's half the game. It's literally half the game. And I'd argue that you could make an argument it's more than half the game, because what does all premiership winners have in common? They're the best defenders. Yeah, and it just doesn't get enough credit. Like when we see a centre that's got incredible defence but doesn't have 1,000 try assists, we go, he's okay, he's solid. But if he had that same impact in attack, he'd be considered the best bloody centre in the game.
Yeah, and you like to really break it down for like particularly a middle forward or an edge forward defending through the middle. So the opposing side, they're rolling through your middles. They're getting like 2.5, 3 second play the balls, and it just seems relentless. And then someone like Liam Martin just whacks a bloke. Another bloke comes over the top. Another player comes in. They put them on their back. They're facing the opposite way. It's a 5 second play of the ball. It gets your defensive line back in place, and it just slows everything down. And that's what Martin does, and that's what Jake Trbojevic does tremendously well too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd go as far to say I'd even start Murray. I said this in game one, but I'd start Murray and Young on the edges, and then I'd move Murray into the middle when called for it. I just think that like the first 20 minutes is so important in Origin. We saw on the last Origin, that's where the game was won. Everyone thinks it was the last 10 minutes, and yeah, to a degree, but where was 10 points scored? Literally in the first 10 minutes, and we just blew his off the park. And what did we end up winning by? 10 points or 8 points or whatever?
Well, yeah, and like not only did you score 10 points, you saved 16.
Exactly.
First, yeah.
And so I just reckon that first 20, you just put your best roster out for best roster, mixture of attack and defence, and you just try to dictate the terms of the game with your best 13 and then make changes around it. Now, that's easy to say because then you go, oh, okay, well then we're not going to have impact off the bench, but I think when it's Origin, anyone that's selected can impact off the bench as long as they're just going, they're confident, ripping and tearing. But I'd understand if they started Frizzell on an edge and they want to keep Murray fresh in the middle there. Anyone else? I think Turbo. It's going to be interesting to see what Turbo does this game because we've talked about the loss of Latrell Mitchell. It was actually Turbo's the last one to win the Player of the Series only 2 years ago, and not much has been spoken about. Like, this guy's a game breaker. Like, he wins matches for you.
It's been a weird few months for Turbo. Hasn't
Real
it?
weird, yeah.
Like, it was 4 weeks ago. I think we all would have sat here and went, you can't possibly pick him. Mm-hmm. He's not playing anywhere near his best. He goes down to Canberra one afternoon and has a day out. We then get to Origin 2, and whether he was injured or what was going on, I just thought he was poorly utilised in that game. But I also think that in that game, Turbo had to inject himself. Turbo had to go looking for the ball more, and he has to do it at Suncorp.
Oh, for sure.
He cannot sit at right centre and wait for the ball to come to him. He has, and I do think that Mitch will be good for that. I think that Mitch. So one thing that I've noticed from the few Parramatta games that I've been at, even when we were on the sideline a couple of weeks ago, you can just hear Mitch all the time.
Yeah, okay.
All the time. Yeah, that's one thing I've always really appreciated with him. And I remember watching him when he was younger, and I feel like Mitch would just be saying things for the sake of saying things. Whereas I think Mitch has got a really good understanding for the game now. I think he's got a really good feel for it. And his job needs to be, you need to bring Turbo into this game.
And we know he loves crabbing across field and going side to side on his right edge, that is, and just bringing blokes under. So I think that'd be a great opportunity to utilise Tommy there, and you're spot on. He needs to roam, inject himself. There's one moment in game one where he was literally the sweeping fullback on the left edge of the field, and he just went, yep, here we go. Get in there, mate, get in there.
We never looked more dangerous than on that play.
Yeah. You're like heart started racing. Tommy's injecting himself, he's getting in there, and I keep saying it, but 2021's the blueprint. Mate, you're a centre, but you're a second fullback. Get involved. We need you.
Yeah. Teddy, he's like going to have to walk a tightrope this game. Not injecting himself too much, but also you don't want to come out and Teddy's only had like 12 runs because that's not his game. His game is a lot of work, So, I mean, I'd argue it might be one of Teddy's biggest tests.
I don't think he's ever been under more pressure right now, Teddy.
Captain in New South Wales, going up to Suncorp, lost your half, struggled in game one from trying too hard, literally trying too hard. So it's not like, I just need to fix my effort. It's like, no, that's literally, we don't want you not trying. Whereas if he came out in game one and had 10 runs, you'd be like, Teddy, you just got to get involved more. So it is a very hard balance for him to find. If anyone can find it, though, I think we're so quick to forget. This guy has been 8 to 9 out of 10 every Origin game. This is the first game where you'd put him at around a 6.
Yeah, and it's interesting now, Teddy's got his back against the wall, and, every Origin game's important, but I reckon for Teddy this year, I reckon this is the first time in a long time Teddy's probably sitting there going, fuck, I'm probably not in the premierships business this year with the Sydney Roosters. This is it this year.
Yeah.
This is Teddy's moment that he can own here.
And also, it's one of the first year where he's come in with average form. He's been so consistent for 4 or 5 years. Like I can't even think of a year since he arrived. Outside of the first few months of 2018, he's always been the best or the second best fullback.
Well, he's won the Jack Gibson medal every year.
Yeah. So that is insanity. Insanity.
Isn't that unbelievable? After you win it the third time, surely the fourth year you're looking at someone else to give it to. Then the fourth into the fifth, still
Crazy.
giving it to him?
Mate, unbelievable. So good. Now, onto the Queensland side. Coates comes in, and we've also got Nanai comes in, and Fodawaker comes in. Where do you see the Queensland side? How do you see him going?
Nanai is such an interesting one, isn't he? I've been sitting here for 10 weeks thinking, geez, I don't know if he makes it back into the Cowboys side. And Billy Slater, without hesitation, just goes, no, you've done a job for me in the past. I know you'll do it again. I'll pick you out of absolutely nowhere with no form on the board, nothing. Well, and I'm so confident he'll come in and do a job.
So Billy actually called Nanai. Now, it might have been before or when he got injured and said, mate, these are all the areas you need to improve in. We want you to go and work on this, this, and this. And then when he came back, he did everything that he'd been asked, and that's why he got selected.
Felice Kafusi was available, right?
Yes, but he hadn't played any games.
Sure. Still, huge call.
Oh, it's a huge call. Oh, absolutely.
Especially when he wasn't out due to injury or suspension.
Yeah.
It's a massive call. It's a massive call.
You feel like Billy just understands the perfect moment to pull certain plays.
Well, I mean, look, KP, Gagai. Now it's only one game, but they are massive calls.
It's huge.
And so all the mail out of Queensland or, the papers or whatever is that Billy literally watches like hours and hours of video on every single Queensland player that's not every single player, but everyone that's in contention for Queensland, he watches hours and hours of footage of them.
And even making the decision to pick Murray Tuolungi on the wing in game one instead of Xavier Coates, comes in, he saves 2 tries in the first 20 minutes.
I know. It's crazy. Yet
if you put them next to each other, like if you did a skill test sort of thing, I think Xavier Coates probably beats him in most things realistically. But Billy he just gets it. It's terrifying.
And the thing with Billy at the moment, and it's only one series and a bit, but it just seems like whoever he does pick, he's going to get the best out of them. And maybe it's the Melbourne thing. I'm not sure what it is, but his ability to just drag the best out of whoever he picks, it's honestly incredible.
And this is what, when I look at Nanai being selected, it's a little bit outside the box, probably doesn't make complete sense. Similar to the TPJ pick last week. Do you think Slater's going to come out and say, it's a gamble, we're taking a gamble? No, he's my guy. I'm backing him in. I know I'm going to get the very best out of him.
I mean, a back row of Fafita, Nanai and Carrigan, fuck, that's good. That is them at all their best. Oh, it really does, brings a tear to the eye.
Jeez, it's a good side.
Fuck. And what's so interesting is it's only 2 years ago that, or let's say 3, that we were busted. The side that we had, and now you're looking at this side going, the Hammer, unbelievable at Origin. Holmes, unbelievable. Coates, you just know Billy's going to get the best out of him. Walsh, I will say, huge test for Walsh. Got a bit chirpy after game 1. The media and it just. They got him. They got him a good one. But also, he was the one that said it. So you can't blame anyone else but himself. Now, he's come out since then and said, I got to be ahead of myself and blah, blah, blah. Huge test because very... And look, I'm a Queenslander, so maybe I'm biased, but very un-Queenslander-like. Queensland are usually pretty quiet heading into Origins. Maybe I'm wrong, boys. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of after the game looked back to, I remember KP's first Origin. Said to him after, how'd he go? And he sort of went, yeah, it was fine. It wasn't as fast as I thought. Or something along those lines,
Yeah, he did.
And I think it's just part of new age sort of football. My thing with Reece Walsh is that if it was a New South Wales player, would I be stoked he said it? No. But I know that Reece Walsh isn't going to back down. I know that Reece Walsh is never going to hide away from a contest. He showed that in Origin 1, and I think he's shown it throughout his entire career. And not ideally said it, but I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, well, it's a huge. You're just adding pressure onto yourself.
Yeah. And he'll learn from that.
Well, that's what I love. That's the main thing that I care about. Even if he goes out and struggles game 2, what I love is that within a week of saying it, he's already said, I got ahead of myself. And that shows you a young kid that he might be brash, he might be bold, he might be in your face, but he's willing to listen. And that's the key difference between if he was brash, young, and said those kind of things and wasn't willing to listen, then it's a problem. Whereas now it's look, Reece, this is this new generation. They'll say shit. They'll just say it. Yeah. But he's willing to go, oh, okay, got it wrong, put his head down and get back to work.
I'd love to know, did Reece just assess that on his own? Did someone pull him aside? Was it Slater or was it a DCE or a Munster?
Well, let's just say someone spoke to him. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I'd love to know, because it wouldn't shock me if it was Ches. Wouldn't shock me at all.
Someone definitely spoke to him. That's it. That's
Kempy messaged him.
I called him. I said, Rissy, here us at Queensland, the coaching staff. I'm the assistant to Cameron Smith. He's assistant. Not good enough, mate. Not good enough. No, but yeah, someone spoke to him.
Can you give us their role?
No, I cannot give you their role.
Age?
But he was spoken to. He was spoken to. And yeah, I'm just so excited for him. Suncorp, this is what dreams are made of, baby. A win at Suncorp, a decider, game 2 in your second game of Origin. You're hot as anything. You couldn't be any hotter. Like, you get hotter by the day, but on this day, you are the hottest. Yeah, this is his opportunity.
Walsh got a call one afternoon. He goes, who's this? It's Moggy. Moggy, Adam Mog. Yeah, mate. I've been there. I've done it.
The great Adam Mog.
I just want to tell you, mate, you just got to pull yourself into line if you want to be a Queenslander. Thanks, Moggy.
Oh, it's funny. His debut was sensational.
Oh.
It was 2 tries. It was sensational. The great Adam Mog. Like, Oh, mate, he was so good. I remember that vividly because he got he got peppered when he got selected, and he was outstanding. So super excited to see Walsh at Suncorp, and as you said, Guru, he's not going to back away from the challenge.
Yep.
They're going to be hunting him. I love the footage. I absolutely love the footage. His first hit up, he just runs it straight at Payne Haas. Like, that is ballsy. He could have got absolutely poleaxed. And that just shows you he loves it.
Wouldn't there be a few guys in this Queensland team that I'm sure they would have got a text or a call from their coach this week, just say, hey, if you can sit next to Ben Hunt at breakfast. Just see what he's thinking.
Well, it was interesting because Flano even said, I want Benny to be a part of like my retention, speaking to players in Origin camp and that. He literally was quoted saying that. Because I guess the idea is that Gal used to be quite heavily involved with Flano in recruitment. Like, Gal used to call people and be like, we need you at the club, we need this, we need that. So super exciting. Coates, we spoke about it already. Probably hasn't had the best year, but I just think Billy's going to get the best out of him. I really do. The only way I personally think that Queensland lose is if they get complacent. So if they make a bunch of errors, think they've already won it before they run that field, that's where they're going to lose the match. It's going to be between the ears because on paper, that roster is a very, very good roster.
Sorry, mate.
No, you go.
I'll say it's an interesting point because Queenslanders are known for not doing that, getting complacent. The Blues in the past have probably been, criticised for it at different stages, but Queensland never do it. For whatever godforsaken reason, the Queensland seem to start every game as underdogs in it. So it is the shoe is on a different foot a little bit this time around,
Absolutely.
where they're going in as heavy favourites. So, all right, does the complacency change? Does it creep into their game?
Well, I think it's the first game in 8 games or 7 games that they've been favourites.
Really?
Yeah, so and they're not just a little bit of favourites, they're massive favourites. So that's their biggest challenge is like walking in going, we're just going to get this job done. It's at Suncorp, that'll take care of it. No, it won't. This New South Wales side is red hot. And, when you actually look at it on paper, like, okay, Tedesco, best fullback in the game over however many years. Twal, best winger in the game. Critter, back-to-back premiership winning centre. Turbo, best centre in the game when he plays well. Addo-Carr, best winger in the game. You know what I mean? Like, this back line is substantially, on paper at least, you would say they have the upper hand. You get to the forward pack.
And it's the record-breaking back line. Almost exact same
Except for
as
Trelly. And then you go to the forward pack. You've got Junior Bowler, grand final last year. Haas, number 1 front rower in the game. Cook, we know how... You know what I mean? Like, this roster is still a tippity top. Most of the players are in grand finals, have won grand finals, or may play a grand final this year. So it's not going to be a walkover. It really isn't. I do not think it's going to be a massive blowout. Now, if it is a blowout, that'd be fantastic. I don't think it is though.
Just before we move off the Queensland side, one guy that I am so happy to see there is Mo Fodawaker.
Yeah.
His form this year has been unbelievable.
So good.
He has been... there's a fair argument that he's almost the informed front rower out of all these guys for me right now.
Well, I would say...
Probably outside of Tino, I'd say he's probably the next most informed guy.
I would say he's been more informed at club than Collins. Even though Collins
Completely
grows another
agree.
leg in Origin.
Yep.
I'd say he's been more informed at club than Nanai. Probably not Carrigan. Cotter's been injured. So, yeah, he's been up there for sure. Absolutely. Like, he has definitely been up there. I wonder how they're going to use him. I wonder how many minutes the big fella's going to get. What do you reckon, 20? 30?
Yeah, 20 to 30, I'd say.
20 to 30?
We sort of touched on it last week, Guru, but the complexion of this game and game events can be thrown out the door and changed if there's one backline injury to either team. Go on this big 4-forward bench, both sides, one backline injury, all of a sudden you've got a forward playing big time out of position. Boom, that's where you're going.
Yeah, and that's Origin. That's exactly what it comes down to, and that's what it came down to in game 1. We know how that played out. So that's our big test.
Yeah.
Going to be really interesting, like Hunt heading into Origin. The whole timing of this is weird because you don't want this big drama around Origin, but at the same time, sometimes stuff like this is actually good because it takes the spotlight off Walsh, Tino, Nanai coming in, Fodawaker. You know what I mean? It takes the spotlight off, but it will be interesting to see how he handles the big drama.
Yeah, I'm not too concerned about Benny Hunt, and maybe that's the New South Wales in me that just fears Ben Hunt so much, but he's just a total professional. He's already played 300 first-grade games. He'll be fine, I think.
What do you reckon, Timmy?
Unflustered Benny Hunt. I think he'll be, as Guru said, the consummate professional. He's a gun. I think he'll be fine. I don't think he'll play on his shoulders at all.
Anything else, boys, from the Queensland side?
That's a good side.
Absolutely.
But can they handle favouritism? Probably not.
Mate, it's really the one big difference between all the years that passed, really, is that they are not just a little bit favourites. $3 currently in New South Wales. Like, I would love to know the last time New South Wales was $3 coming into a decider. So, yeah, you got any thoughts on Origin, Matty, before we move on?
Oh, not anything different to what we said for last week. I think, yeah, the whole Ben Hunt thing, I'm with all you guys. I don't think he'll be phased at all. He's one of the most experienced players, and he's done it. He's been there and done it. He scares me a lot, Ben Hunt, like that. It's the most nervous I've come into a game in the Freddie era, that's for sure. But I am very excited to see how Mitch Moses goes. And I think you're right, Guru. I actually never thought of that, how 2 years ago, when I personally thought it should have been Walker and Reynolds should have been the halves in that game 3. But
I recall you being very vocal, yeah.
Yeah, but now it's kind of paid off, because there's a huge difference between going into your debut at Suncorp and having been there, done that. So, yeah, excited.
The last thing I'd touch on with this Queensland side, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but when I look at them 1 to 17, there's no one there that's playing their last Origin series. DCE and Hunt, the two oldest guys, and I think they'll probably play Origin next year. The rest of these guys are all 23 to 26.
I know, I asked Billy that. So I had him on the captain's run last week, and I was like, in key positions, you've got older guys, but across the board, the side is like young as anything. And he was like, to be honest, Kempy, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what their ages are. I just watch them play, and I just select whoever I feel is going to do the job the best. Don't even think about their age.
That's a really interesting point when you look at Nanai and Kafusi.
Yeah.
Because you think, they've gone to Nanai, obviously there's attacking upside, but you know what, if there was a toss-up in that decision of who to go, you looking at the future, Kafusi end of his career, Nanai's going to be there for a long time, but if he hasn't potentially taken that into consideration, just picked him on merit, no, I think he does essentially a better job than Kafusi.
Yeah.
Surprised me a lot.
Yeah, it was interesting that he was like, mate, I honestly couldn't even tell you their ages. Which is, really, really interesting. Now, tough question for you boys. Tough question. If you guys lose this series, let's say you lose 2-1, does Freddie get re-signed?
No, I think it might be time to look. But you know what, mate? I say it might be time to look elsewhere. Where else do we look? Where do we go? Who do we move to? Like, we've got Freddie, we've got Joey. I think I heard Buzz say it a few weeks ago, and I'm not a huge fan of agreeing with Buzz and some of his rogue takes, but like even a guy like Ricky Stewart, is it time we just got a passionate lunatic in there? And I mean that with the greatest respect. That's why we love Ricky Stewart, because he's passionate about what he does. It's why you never want to see him leave there as the coach. Is it time that we start to move in that direction?
Timmy?
I think if we lose the series, Freddie will be moved on,
Matty?
I'm not so convinced, but I do think if we lose the series, purely because there is no one else out there really. I don't think Bellamy or Ricky Stewart's the answer. If we lose this series, Blues are 1 from 4, so the formula has to change. So it's got to go on Freddie a bit, but I wouldn't be sacking him just yet.
I would give him another year, but I would be changing the process of selections. And I would be, I guess, helping him in regards to some selections that were made, some game claims that are made, just change some things around him, give him another year, and then I'd go see how we go there. Because he still is, yes, you could go the 1 from 4, but then you could also go 3 from 6. So you can choose whatever statistic suits your narrative, but I just think that with a coach, since he's got in there, if he loses this series, he's got a 50% win rate. That's not too bad in Origin.
Not too bad, but I think it's just more you mentioned it before, I know we don't have to agree with everything the bookies say, but what we've started favourites in the last 8 games, and we lost the unlosable series in, 2020. I know it's a while ago now, but I don't know. If we win this series, happy days, of course he stays on, but I think if we lose this one, I'd be happy to move on. Someone like Desi Hasler, throw a hat in the ring. Ex-New South Wales Blues player, plenty of runs on the board. One of the most reputable coaches in the game. I don't know what he's up to, what he's been doing lately, but I mean it's silly to speculate now. We'll do it after the series, but when you talk about no options, someone like Desi could do the job.
Yeah, I get what you're saying with 50% and all that, but for me, like I don't care. It's how we lose. It's how we're just not on your level as the Maroons.
Yeah. I mean, we spoke about this, I think, on the Hello Sport podcast. It's just, I look at it more like, the best winning percentage coach is Gus at 58, did you say? He's at 50. And essentially your second best wingers coach is Freddie. Wayne Pearce has less games coached and a bit higher percentage, but with the amount of games that Freddie has coached and then his percentage, which would be end up at about 50. And so that when I look at that, I go, fuck, like if all these other people have worse win percentages than him, and he's the best, you know what I mean? That's the way I kind of look at it. What do you got there, Matty?
Oh, nothing to add. You're pretty much bang on.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say that I think the time of like club coaches being Origin coaches, the game has become, Origin has become so monumental. The amount of time required. You just mentioned Billy Slater's watching every minute of every bloody Queensland contender. Imagine coaching an NRL club and looking after your state at the same time. Like, I don't think that's a Stewart or a Bellyache or something like that's an option anymore, is it?
Yeah, well, Bennett did it for 1 year, but that's Bennett.
Bennett's Bennett.
It's wild when you look back though how common that was.
All the time.
Like you think that like that 05, it's Origin series. We constantly talk about what Joey did. Like Ricky Stewart went from coaching the Roosters to just popping out for 9 weeks
It's mad, isn't
to
it?
coach the Blues.
But also, when Bennett did it, the season was over.
Good point.
True.
Good point.
Exactly right. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, so I can see the argument. 1 from 4, that definitely does not look good on the resume. I'd give him 1 more year. I'd give him a 1 year deal. I'd change the structures around him, and I'd probably, with selections and that, I would probably help him with that. If I was New South Wales, I'd help him with those selections.
Last thing I'll touch on, that's one of my great pet peeves of all time, and hopefully it doesn't play out this way, but if by some form of miracle you actually do win on Wednesday night, why on earth you don't get given the shield at Suncorp Stadium?
Oh,
It's fucking beyond me.
like there's nothing worse than losing a dead rubber and then getting a shield.
Doing a lap around Sydney?
Yeah.
Please.
Maybe we
One,
should-
it's yours. Have it at Suncorp.
I'll give. You know what? I'll make one and give it to Smithy.
Should.
It says win a chicken dinner on it.
Really happy for you.
But who knows? I think that this is going to be one of the great Origin games, and I think New South Wales absolutely have the side to get the job done. I am backing Queensland. I don't know what my prediction was last week, but 16-12, I think.
Blues by 4.
Blues 20-14.
Ooh, I'm Blues 20-12.
I'm trying to think who went my man of the match. Did I go Paddy Carrigan again? Back it up.
I
think
can't
I
remember
might
what you did. I can't remember.
Anyway,
Can't remember
I
what
went
did.
Reece Walsh. Reece Walsh.
I'm going to
Yeah,
go Turbo.
Turbo.
yeah, I think Turbo's.
I think I actually had Latrell, so I'm going to go Teddy, actually. I'm gonna go Teddy, yeah.
Teddy? Okay. Alrighty, let's get into round 16 review. Cowboys defeat the Panthers 27-23. Look, I know, like it's a lot of people sit there and go, oh, well, Panthers were missing this player, but Cowboys were missing a bunch of players too. This was a great win for the Cowboys season. Now, were Panthers at their best? Probably not, but as I said, Cowboys were missing a lot of players as well. And geez, doesn't Tamalolo make a difference to that side? Holy moly. Incredible match winner from Scotty Drinkwater. Like, just pure individual brilliance. And he's been doing that in attack. Even when they get towed up, usually you look at Drinkwater, he's got 2 or 3 try assists. So really exactly what the Cowboys needed. Exactly what the Cowboys needed.
Isn't Tamalolo a classic? Like, you realise how good he is when he's taken out, but then when you see him get put back in, you just go, oh, Jesus. God, they missed him.
Oh, massively. They don't win the game.
Honestly, there's been moments over the last 5 or 6 weeks where I haven't even considered the Cowboys are without him.
Yeah.
I still think he's underappreciated to some extent. He was fantastic. You said Drinky as well. Like, there's not many guys that could have scored that try on that last play.
So silky.
Drinky, so good. And it's just so exciting to watch. And I know it came from obviously attempting a field goal and rushed and a scattered defense, but Christ, I'd prefer golden try. I don't know about you two, but I hate the shootout.
Oh, I don't like the golden point. I've never liked golden point. It should be golden try. And I get it because then a lot of games would end in draws, but I just hate that every time they get down to, you know exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah.
They're going to field goal.
And it's also like our entire game is built around scoring and stopping tries. And then we get down to the crunch moments and it completely changes. It comes down to who can kick a field goal. And the problem with the field goal is as well that it creates so much grey area around the field goal. Are your markers square?
Yeah.
Are they going early? Is everyone on side? And at the end of the day, referees don't want to decide games on minor little things like that. I just think golden try is by far and away the way to go.
Yeah. I understand. There's an argument to be said, you know, players should be rewarded. It's extremely hard to kick a field goal under pressure, and that's a skill set in itself. So I understand people that say, like, that is a skill, but I'd much rather golden point. Even like golden point and, I don't know, two players get taken off or something like that to open space up so people can score.
But if they want to just ease in a change to it, you just go golden try, but you still play your 10 minutes. So as you know, you kick a field goal, you go up 1. All right, the game's still on. It's still there to be won, and it goes to 10 minutes. And if at the end of it a team's up by 1, then they're the winners. But just give players the option that if they see something on, rather than no, take the tackle, play it back to the middle, have a shot from 40, it's no good. They go, no, we see an opportunity, let's take it, let's go for the try.
Yep.
And then maybe that evolves to at some point it being just golden try or whatever it might be, but it seems a no-brainer, doesn't it?
I reckon even if you did that, teams would still just go for field goal.
They 100% would,
Yeah.
but at least it'd tempt them a little bit more into playing eyes up and seeing an opportunity in front of them and going for
Yeah,
it.
because I had a whinge the other night about how I hate in golden point, if you miss a shot at field goal, it's a 7-tackle set. People clap back at me and said, it's risk versus reward. And I said, I think the risk is too high to do that. But then I sat there and I went, is it? Teams are still going for field goals. You get a 7-tackle set and all teams do. No one thinks, this is a try opportunity. Everyone thinks, this is just an easier shot at field goal. Now, I don't find it entertaining at all, the shooting.
What's the negative of not having golden? Why wouldn't it be golden try? What do they gain out of it being golden point rather than golden try? Is it to try to make them not go the 90 minutes?
Yeah,
and
maybe
take
the
that
fatigue
under
factor or
you're
something?
thinking that, looking after the players.
Making the players, go for 90 minutes. They're trying to avoid that. Or maybe there's excitement in the goal. Some people might enjoy the golden point.
I do. I really enjoy golden point. I think it's so much fun. You're on the edge of the seat the whole time. Every single set they line up for one. From a footy standpoint and whatnot, I'd prefer obviously the golden try. But I love golden point. Thrilling.
Do you think if you lose golden point, you should get something for it? I know that'd be changing a lot of the fabric, but
No, I don't reckon. I personally have always liked golden try. I just think that, golden point, although you are on the edge of your seat and it is exciting, it is a bit predictable, but I don't think it's a huge problem, to be honest. I mean, I don't think it's a huge problem, but I probably would prefer golden try just because field goals are great, but it's not as exciting. It is exciting, but it could be more exciting than just watching two teams go back and forth, as in just rolling up, field goal attempt, rolling up, field goal attempt, rolling up, field goal attempt. If you could just add in that extra spice of golden try, I reckon they would still go for the field goal, yes, but there would be times where players go, I'm going for where there'd be plays set up or we're looking like we're going for a field goal, but we want to score the try. It's a tough one, but I don't think it's a big concern. I still find it exciting. But to the Cowboys, this is exactly what they needed. Look, they still missed, a substantial amount of tackles and they weren't perfect. But again, a win's a win. They've now won. They've now beaten the Storm and beaten Panthers. It's not bad.
Yeah, well, it wasn't a pretty victory by any means, but when you're in the Cowboys position, you don't need them to be pretty. You just need to start to stack some wins up. I said Tamalolo was fantastic. I thought Tommy Dearden was really good as well. Jeez, he's going to be
Strongest hips in the game.
Yeah.
Baby bear and hips.
Tag specialist.
Baby bear and hips, those ones.
I'm so scared when he gets into the Origin arena and is really established. I think he's going to be such a good footballer for so long.
I just love how, when there's a big game, Dearden is usually one of the main men.
Yeah,
he loves it.
Yeah.
He just rips and tears. He just goes after the game. I can't wait to see him develop as a player because, as I said, been saying for a long time, I actually think he's going to be a really good 7 when he, develops into more player. But what is he? 21 years old? Can you get his age? I think he's 21.
Jeez.
And as you said, whenever there's a big game, Tom Dearden stands up and when you look at Tom Dearden and his career, what he's been through, he's got no right to stand up in big moments. He should have been scarred forever from what happened at the Broncos. And the way he's turned it around has been incredible.
22.
22. Far out. That is so young, like with everything that he's been through and
The way the game's going and how guys are getting older, like he could have 14 years left.
yeah. And he's already proven he can step up to the biggest stage, Origin. And that was last year. He was 21. But yeah, he had a try assist. He had 12 runs, 126 metres, 6 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks, 21 tackles, only 2 misses. Just went at the game. He just really went at the game. And talk about going to be a crowd favourite over the next 10 years at the Cowboys. Like that, he is going to be beloved. And I don't even think we're scratching the surface with how good he can be. Coming through the grades, he was the next big thing. Like he was the man coming out of school. Broncos had such huge raps on him. And as I said, like in a year where the Cowboys are really struggling, for a 22-year-old to go, I'll be the man to get us out of this, super impressive. Super impressive.
I thought Kyle Felt back in was really good too, mate.
Yeah, he was huge. He was huge. He ran for 260 metres. 2 line breaks, 4 tackle breaks. The big fella.
He's been so reliable for so long, Kyle Felt.
Just had a few poor games, got dropped last week, comes back into the side, shows he absolutely still has it in him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Kyle Felt's biggest problem has been for a long time when Kyle Felt has a bad game, like Christ, he has a bad game. But outside of that, he is normally so consistent. He always just finds a way to score, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Like he can just put the ball in the air in a crucial moment to
find a way.
and come down with it.
He's one of the game's best finishers, in my opinion. And
Definitely.
He has literally won so many games for the Cowboys since 2015. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Fini Fueki? Did he say Fini Fueki?
I believe so. He looks good.
Geez, he looks good. Far out, he looks good. It's just the embarrassment of riches that the Cowboys have on that edge back row. It is crazy.
It's like, what are those little dolls where they get smaller and smaller? And it's like Nanai, Lukey, and then this kid. You're like, fuck, they could all be guns in 3 years. It's like they're each at 3 different stages. I love the look of him.
Yeah. Fini Fueki, I think it is. Fini Fuyaki. But he's quite nuggety too.
Yep.
And he's just a bulldozer. And I just love the way he goes after it in the game. Like, as soon as he gets on the field, that he just has an intensity about him that lifts everyone around him. Like, you look at his stats, and it's not crazy. It's not, like, world-beating. But if you watch the game and see the energy that he brings, he lifts the people around him.
It's a bit like when you see Spencer Leniu come on the field for Penrith.
Yeah.
The momentum just sort of changes around him.
Absolutely. Griffin Neame, he was outstanding. One of his best games, honestly. He was so good. 167 metres in the middle, 18 runs, 65 minutes, so heaps of minutes. 33 tackles. So, then you got Leilua. He also had some good moments. Got through plenty of work. And so you look at it and you go, as we've said, not the prettiest win, but they've beaten the Melbourne Storm and the Penrith Panthers now. They did the Penrith Panthers without their players, and if there's one team that has a system to rely on, it's the Penrith Panthers, whereas the Cowboys, they don't have that luxury or, thing to fall back on. So the fact that they were able to do this without Cotter, Holmes, who else? Cotter, Holmes, Nanai. There's one more. Robson,
yeah. Fuck.
You know what I mean? Like, it's incredible.
Well, that's it. We you mentioned at the start that it was a game maybe they should have won with all the Penrith players out. All 3 of us on here, like Matty's included, we tipped Penrith. So the Cowboys had enough out that it was enough for us to say go up to Townsville. Well, we were still tipping Penrith. So it was a game that Penrith could afford to drop. It was a game the Cowboys had to win. I said might not have been pretty, but they got the job done.
You have my number. You could have called me. I would have tipped you off. Shout out Jakey Granville, 89 minutes at hooker in 2023.
Yeah. And he missed some tackles, but not all misses are equal. When you're in the middle there for 90 minutes, you're a small fella, haven't played. When was the last time you even played 80 minutes at hooker?
It's been ages.
Ages ago. You can afford to, have. Look, you had a lot of misses, but again, they got the win, and he worked his absolute backside off for that side.
One that I like the look of is this Laybutt. Didn't blow it away, but just some of his touches that he had, It's just something about him. I really like the look of him, and I think with Peter Hiku leaving at the end of this season, I reckon he'll be the starting centre next year for the Cows.
Yeah, definitely looks like he's got a lot of potential. Moves really well. Has a kind of classiness to him that you sometimes separates you from other debutants. So yeah, didn't set the world alight, but I do agree. You know, he just moved quite well.
Just never panics.
Yeah.
He always feels like he's got time.
So really, really good for the Cowboys. Where does this put their season for you guys? They make the 8?
Where are they coming now? Where are they? 13th?
13th on 16 points. So they're a game out of the 8. The Eels are on 18 and 8. Yeah.
And they've played 15 games as well. Whereas there are teams ahead of them that have played 14.
Yeah.
So out of the top 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 teams in the top 8 have played 14 games.
Never ceases to amaze you how close this table is, does it?
Craziness. When I look, I mean, we'll get to it, but the fact that Melbourne Storm are equal second, insane.
Yeah.
We'll get to how incredible that's not. Like, fuck. They have not had a good year. They're equal second. I'm sick of them just doing this shit, man. Oh, man.
I know we'll get to them as well, but even Parramatta being in the 8 when they've only had one bye, after you think about how many games they dropped at the start of the season
and how bad the years
wrong for them.
Oh,
fuck.
It's really snuck up that they're on 4 in a row now.
Big time, yeah.
I know, and it's like typical Eels. Typical Eels, like you count them out. This is just like the kind of footy they play.
Yeah.
And they've done it with lots of key players out.
Fuck. Anyway, we'll get to them. So Cowboys, maybe they do make the 8, and maybe Taumalolo is the fire that they need to ignite their season, where they just get that confidence. Dearden gets a bit of swagger about him, gets those hips shaking and moving.
Helam Lukey suspected was a broken jaw.
Yeah.
Please get cleared. I'd be so devastated to see him go down for another 6-8 weeks or whatever it might be. Geez, I hope he gets cleared.
And another thing as well, Nanai, he's also been out quite a bit this year. If he goes into Origin, kills it, comes back, all of a sudden you've got an Origin back row, you've got Taumalolo, you've got, Dearden in great form, Drinkwater, it all could come together. And a few weeks ago I was going, in my head I'm like, I think the Cowboys are done. But this year, I think especially, it's such a unique year because it's the closest year we've had in so long. So almost nearly any team except for maybe, teams sitting on 12 points, so Dragons, Doggies and Tigers sit on 10. Like any team could go on a run and somehow make it into the 8 just because the ladder is so close. Whereas I think we're kind of judging a lot of the time or in our head saying, Cowboys are done because we're judging them on like a yesteryear kind of vibe. Whereas this year's vibe, it's just completely different. Like to think that the Storm, Eels, Sharks even. Like Sharks have had a pretty underwhelming year. They're sitting bloody 5th. Isn't it
interesting, like when you look at that, where I probably draw the line is the Knights are probably the last side I would give a hope to be able to make finals from where they are. But like above them, geez, some sleeping giants in Roosters, Seagulls, Cowboys.
Yeah. Yeah.
That if they can just put together form and find something.
Well, the Sea Eagles, with how poor their season's been, they're 1 win outside the 8 as well. Like, it's just insane.
Yeah. Mate, if like... They're essentially... They're pretty much 1 win out of the 4. South Sydney are on 20 points. Well, like, you have a look at the Roosters in 11th. They are 1 win out of the top 4. It's
insane. So very unique year. So it's going to be hard to, like, write anyone off or anything like that because it is such a tight race. But yeah, massive congratulations to the Cowboys. They got it done, and you can't write them off yet. You really just can't write them off yet. Penrith, look, you can't be perfect. And I didn't think they were actually that bad. There were a few opportunities they probably missed, but it's just one of those games where Cowboys played really well, Panthers played okay, and they lost it. I don't think it's an indictment on the players. I thought Cogger was pretty good, actually. Dylan Edwards tried his ass off. Taruva was outstanding. What do you think of the Panthers?
Mate, the one that I enjoyed watching this game was Jamin Salmon. I thought he was really good at 5'8". The way that he gets over the advantage line and the way that he straightens up. I think he's such a handy guy to have in a squad, to be able to chuck him at In the second row, he can handle himself. In the halves, he could handle himself. Centre, he'd be okay too. I really liked how he played in this game. I was impressed with Salmon. Isaac Tungo obviously had a good game. He did a couple of good things. Jill Edwards, 330 run metres from 32 runs. Had a couple of errors in the back end of the game. Probably the last 10 or 15 minutes was very unlike Jill Edwards. But outside of that, I thought he was great. And I think we had him in team of the week, Scotty Sorensen. Just keeps on keeping on.
Keeps on getting better and better. He was so good from the bench that it was almost he's too good to play himself into the starting role. But then he gets an opportunity as a starting player and plays outstanding.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon he's won the starting edge role going forward? Because they're obviously sort of easing Martin a little bit over the origin period, and he's had a few soft tissue injuries as well. When it comes out of the origin period and we go into the run home, what's that back row rotation look like? Because obviously Zach Hosking as well. Do you think Sorensen has locked it in ahead of Hosking, or do you think...
No, I think just with the balance of the side, Hoskins is better suited. Just because I think Liam Martin can play a similar role to Sorensen in regards to can break the line open, a lot of speed, a lot of explosiveness. I like the balance of a Hosking where, is he as explosive as Sorensen and Martin? No. But he just runs a really bloody good line, gets through a mountain of work. And so I like that balance. Look, either or can get the job done.
Not going to go wrong.
Yeah, you're not going to go wrong. And also, we know for a fact, off the bench, Sorensen is incredible. So it's like could Hoskins have the same impact that Sorensen has off the bench? Probably not, because he's a workhorse. So I'd probably go with Hoskins.
My thinking the entire time has been that Hosking will stay in the starting spot and that Liam Martin will take it. But, geez, the longer this goes on, and as good as Sorensen's playing, I'll be honest, I'm starting to wonder if Sorensen does hold it.
And so it's Liam Martin and Sorensen?
No, I still think that one of Liam Martin or Sorensen will be on the bench for impact. I agree with you. I think Hosking has to be on the right side. I think he's the best option there. But for ages, I've been thinking, Scotty Sorensen will eventually come back to the Pine because he's so good coming off the bench. The more I watch him now, the more I'm thinking, fuck, is he going to come back there? He might stay there.
And ironically,
do you think Martin becomes a bench player?
Potentially, yeah.
Not in the traditional sense of a bench player, but coming on and playing 50, 60 straight or something.
Quite possibly. I reckon there's a chance it could play out that way.
And ironically, Martin is a great bench player.
Mate, he's a gun bench player. Yeah.
Look, I'd still go with Martin, but it's interesting. Scott Sorensen's creating headaches. Absolutely.
I reckon I like Hosking and Martin starting and Scotty playing that role, coming off the bench in the middle, can go on the edge if required, but just maybe, like last year, I don't know what the average minutes-wise, maybe it was about 40, or just maybe getting a few more minutes into him throughout the middle or just across the game because he has been so good.
And when you go back and have a look at Liam Martin last year, as soon as final started, he became an 80-minute edge back.
Yeah.
As soon as final, they sort of eased him in for the weeks after Origin, but then as soon as it was crunch time, he was an 80-minute guy there.
So the last 3 years, Scotty had averaged 40 minutes, obviously off the bench, 60 minutes averaging this year, obviously inflated by games, starting on the edge. But back to the bench role, but maybe you get him an extra 10 minutes there and he spends 15 minutes on.
Yeah. I want to give a shout out to my boy, Lindsay Smith. Holy shit. He's been the most under the radar forward in the competition. Once again, 19 runs, 164 metres, 59 post contact, 3 tackle breaks, an offload, 36 tackles in 60 minutes. Lindsay Smith is so new to first grade and he's not like the flashy highlight reel. He could walk down the street and you wouldn't even, a lot of fans wouldn't even recognise him. Yet he is putting pressure and getting big minutes, more minutes than Fisher Harris, and more minutes. Oh, so they started. Hang on a sec.
They started Spencer Leniu.
So they started Spencer Leniu. So how many minutes and more minutes than Spencer? So he's getting the most minutes of any front rower currently at the Panthers, and no one's talking about it.
Yeah, I'd like to take this opportunity to ask Lindsay Smith to get a haircut, get a tattoo, put on a headgear, because us Supercoach players that are trying to watch every second tackle that Zach Hosking makes, they look too much alike. You said he could walk down the street, people wouldn't recognise him. I'd say, hey, Zach, how are you? I make a mistake all the time.
How dare you? Make Zach get the haircut. How dare you, sir? The great Lindsay Smith. Getting the great Lindsay Smith to get a haircut.
But he really has come from nowhere, hasn't he? And he's become very, very important all of a sudden. I'd probably argue that I think he's potentially jumped in front of Matt Eisenhuth as far as the next man into the side.
Oh, for sure. He's playing more minutes than Fisher Harris and Leota.
And Spencer Leniu leaving next year.
And Leniu, so like he has just been, I think he's been outstanding, at least for the last month. He has been absolutely outstanding. So look, as we said with the Panthers, absolutely nothing to worry about. One game, they lost in a tight match. Cowboys were playing for everything. Like, it's insane to think, like the Panthers, back-to-back premiers, even in games like this where it would have been very easy for them to go, you know what, we're the back-to-back premiers. Who gives a shit? We're missing half our side. But they just fight to the death anyway. Just such a good club. Far out.
The guy that was 18th man in this game, his name's Jack Cole. He can sort of play 5'8" or centre. Very, very talented kid as well that you're going to see soon.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how much could he be anything?
I'm going to give Jack Cole a 7 could be anything.
Wow.
10 could be anything.
What's a 10 out of 10 could be anything?
That's a hop good.
That's a 10 out
Call
of
that
10.
an official hop good. After this week.
Wouldn't that be a Grant?
Harry Grant. I'm a big hop good fan. You know that.
Holy. We'll get to the Hopgood moment. Don't worry.
No, we will. Don't worry.
will.
That's why I came in today. Dragged myself out of bed for it.
Okay. Now let's get on to Knights v. the Roosters. Look, Roosters' scramble defence is probably the best we've seen it all year, but Knights really lost themselves this game. They created so many opportunities to win it, and that last pass just didn't stick. I mean, we're talking at least 5 or 6. Like, it was constant. So this is definitely one they're going to rue that got away. From a Roosters perspective, you know, it's been reported that Keary has been cleared of a fracture and may even play this week, so that's really good news. A win's a win, and sometimes you just got to get them. And the Roosters have kept themselves in touch with the top 8. But, geez, they're hard to get excited about. They really are at the moment, which is so surprising because at the start of the year, they were probably the most exciting team. Like, this team genuinely could rock the Penrith Panthers with this incredible roster. So it was a gutsy as anything effort from the Roosters, but it almost, if gutsy is what we're saying about the Roosters with the roster they've had this year, you're almost like that's not really the bar that we thought we were going to be hitting come this time of the season.
They would have been 2 very weird dressing rooms about 5:30.
Very strange.
Yeah. As you said, Roosters, they won. Just had to find a way to do it. It was ugly. I like the look of the halfback, mate. Smith.
I thought he was really good.
I really like him. You've obviously got Sam Walker, who's going to be available over the next few weeks. I think he's out of a knee brace now, Sammy Walker, so he'll be available soon. But man, I really like the look of Smith. I was sort of, to be honest with you, when the news came out that Luke Keary's going to be down, I sort of, I was obviously like, fuck, that sucks for Luke. But a little part of me was a little bit excited just to see this new, like someone completely new handed the keys at the Roosters and just see how it goes. Because I love this kid's running game. He just brings energy.
Does Robbo give him another chance? Does he say Joey Manu back to centre? Let's say Teddy backs up from Origin, plays fullback. Does Joey go back to centre? And they go
Surely.
I reckon he will.
Yeah,
Surely.
Him and Keary.
Yeah.
Surely Manu at 6 is done.
Yeah.
It's got to be done.
It can win you games here and there, but it's not the answer. It's
not a
the
6.
greatest Band-Aid of all time.
He's just unfortunately, now look, if he has a whole preseason at 6 and he can work on his passing, then yeah, I could see it working. But mid-season swapping into 6, I just don't know if it's working. I will say that the Sam Walker dropping, it really has turned into an objectively bad call because now the halves situation at the Roosters is even more complicated because Sandon Smith is going okay. So it's like, who's the next guy up? And then it's like Keary, he's got the spot, but Sandon Smith and Walker, they're too young. You're obviously not going to drop Keary. When Keary got injured, obviously I was devastated for he's such a good guy, Keary, and obviously incredible rugby league player. But part of me was like, the Roosters would almost, the silver lining, it's a bad situation. The silver lining is it takes a lot of pressure off them as a club because we don't have Sam Walker, we don't have Luke Keary. That's why we didn't go well in 2023. Whereas like now they don't have that pressure release kind of thing. Even though people that watch footy closely know that that's not the truth, it still is a much easier sell by the end of the season. Everyone forgets what happened in the first half. They just remember what they saw in the second half. And the second half was Keary was out injured, Walker was out injured for most of it, and we were blooding a new rookie in Sandon Smith. So it's like almost a reliever to a degree. But with him being back, the pressure is back on.
The other one that I really like the look of at the moment, mate, is Jake Turpin.
I think he's been great. I really do. And I think that more and more, I think Brandon Sandon. Brandon Smith to Sandon Smith. I think more and more we're going to see Smith at 13 or revolving, like he'll be in the forwards more.
He'll be a middle forward.
I think so. I think that, our concern with Verrills leaving was he suited the Roosters perfectly. Good service, got through it to work. Now, I know he was injured, but you go back even further. Jake Friend. He wasn't a flashy hooker. He did good service and tackled his dick off. That's all he did. And he did it for 10 years and they won multiple premierships with it. And so I was always wondering, and we spoke about it quite a bit on this podcast, is like, how does Brandon Smith suit this Roosters side? Like, he is a dominant ball-running hooker. And I think that it just hasn't seemed to click. Like, I cannot see him being the 60, 70-minute hooker long-term with the current setup. Now, maybe that everything changes, but he's just so good at a 1-2 punch. It seems obvious now. It seems obvious. And that's very hindsight. I was still very confident that Brandon Smith could be the guy. But get Turpin on, get him through the shit work, and just have Brandon there for the big runs.
Isn't it funny how right and how wrong we were at the same time with the Roosters coming into the season? I think you and I, Kempy might have had them as premiers, but we also had question marks around Smith at 9 and, too many chefs in the kitchen. Like, that's come to fruition. Yeah. But I think we both sort of thought they would fix these issues early on and or by mid-season at the very least and start coming good. Well, they're still not coming good, I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
But yeah, Turpin, he said 121 tackles in 2 weeks, 2 misses, playing big minutes. As I said, great for bench rotations if he does keep playing that, and Cheese comes back on as a 13. So, yeah, I like it. He doesn't have to be a superstar for him. I said he can be Sam Verrills or Jake Friend, and yeah, I think he can do a wonderful job there. Just focus on service, focus on making his tackles, and everything becomes a lot simpler.
Yeah. I will say, so the Roosters were missing Tedesco, Suoliti, Keary obviously went out injured. Lodge is asked for a release. That's what was getting reported now, but he wasn't playing. Collins. Who else? Cheese.
Yeah,
Radley.
Yeah, it's a big out.
So that's why, although it was an ugly win, it was a really good win for the club because I know that they've still got a really good side when you look at it on paper. You're like, that's still a bloody good side. But that is 7 players that are all, tippity top.
And the Knights were pretty close to full strength. Obviously, Frizzell out and then Brayley out. But Brayley spent season, got to adjust to that. So, yeah, well, I mean, when you put it that way, it's probably pretty gritty.
A pretty gutsy win.
Yeah. Oh, I think the emergence of Jake Turpin's going to start to turn their season around a little bit. I really do. I've always said it. I think Cheese is a better middle forward than he is a hooker. I stand by it, and I think that when you see him over the next few weeks, if this is true about Matt Lodge getting a release and Cheese gets to play as a middle forward, we always use the word for Cheese like a star. You can be a star momentum forward that they can get off the back of. And that's when the Roosters play their best footy, when Teddy, Manu, these guys are flooding the middle. They need a momentum guy, and Brandon Smith can be that guy.
Yeah. I'm almost like, it's better for him. Just get him on there, do all the fun stuff, like bashing blokes, taking big hit-ups, give him a breather, and bring him back. You know what I mean? Like, in that way, I know as a footy player, you want to be out there all the time. So obviously he wants to be out all the time, but I think that's better for him as well, like as a player. Yeah. He doesn't have to worry about all that.
And I mean, you look at what he can add to the Roosters as a middle forward. Look at what the Melbourne Storm have lost without him going through the middle.
Oh, mate.
Like, if you need any more evidence, I can't help you.
Yeah. I still think he's a good hooker, but he has to have a rotation partner. Like, I don't think he's an 80-minute. He's not a 60, 70-minute hooker, in my opinion. Like, I think he can spend time there when the game is sped up and he can get out of dummy half a lot. But he also needs to, spend some time in the forward.
I think it'd be perfect to have Cheese as your starting hooker for the first 20 minutes. Bring him off. Turpin plays the remainder of the game.
Yeah.
And then in that 50th minute for the last half an hour, you bring Cheese on and go, hey, go nuts.
Yeah, I don't mind that. Or even you start Turpin 20, you could bring Cheese on to go ham before half time.
I'd go that line. Yeah. I like Turpin starting. To be honest, if you do find yourself a bit short on middle forwards and momentum forwards, I'd be happy to play Cheese exclusively as a 13. I know it's hard with Radley there, but you slot him in a prop, it's Cheese. Not a lot changes. He can handle his weight there. But yeah, if you did want to bring him on to give Turpin a spell, just the idea of Cheese coming into a more tiring defence. But yeah, I can play Turpin big minutes. Why not?
So yeah, when you really look at like the situation the club's in regards to they're not even in form anyway. They had all these players out. It's a decent win. It's decent. Look, it's not, as I said, it's not exciting at the moment for Roosters. I don't sit there and go, it's all clicking, but at the end of the day, they lost their starting half in Keary quite early on, relatively early on anyway. How many did he end up playing? How many minutes?
25.
25 minutes. Sandon Smith managed to hold on and win the game. Like, that's a positive for the club.
Yeah, and let's look at, like, compare it to last year. It's not that too different a season, really. All right, I don't think the Roosters were going... They didn't look this poor on field at this stage last year, but they came home and won 8 on the trot or something and finished 5th or 6th, then had the elimination semi and got knocked out first week in that infamous game against the Bunnies. So the one thing about them is...
They're equal 8.
Exactly right. So the squad is still there. They're in around the 8. And if they can make the 8 and build that momentum in the back end of the year, as Robbo has historically done with his sides... If they do start to click the last month, 6 weeks, get to finals and they're in there, we know that they have the ability to go deep. We're not seeing it at the moment, but it's there. It's there somewhere.
For sure. I think the more surprising thing is like they just haven't looked close to what we know. Like maybe there's been like a half of footy or like maybe 80 minutes where you've gone, oh yeah, but outside of that. Anyway, good gutsy win for the Roosters. Shout out to Nate... say bloody Nate Miles. Nat Butcher. Jeez, he worked his ass off. In the front row, he ended up playing 80 minutes. Moved around a little bit, but started in the front row, got through a mountain of work. He had a try, 171 metres, 2 tackle breaks, 45 tackles. Efforts like that is what won them the game. It's just, it wasn't pretty, is he Payne Haas or Fisher Harris? No, but he did not stop for a second during that whole game, and that's what won it to him. That's what won it for him. On to the Knights. Man, such a really hard game to judge because they put themselves in the position to definitely win it. But just that last path. Let's talk about some positive first. By God, it's good to see Kalen Ponga at fullback. It is just... Please, just if anyone brings up Kalen and 5'8" again, punch him in the mouth. Just punch him straight in the face. No, actually, punch him in the dick. And just go, shut up, man. Just shut up.
I feel like it's not done yet, though. I feel like in 2 years' time,
no.
Could pop its head
Well,
up again.
you be the man to get your dick punched then.
Sure.
You be a brave man because everyone now knows to dick punch someone that says Kalen Ponga 5'8". And it's a matter of, look...
It just feels like the sort of thing that'll pop
I
up
know.
at some point.
Well, it's because he's so fucking talented.
Yes, yeah.
So, like, he is talented enough to make it work at 6. But he's so good at fullback. Like, sometimes you just take your win where you can get it. Ever since he's been at fullback, he's been electric. Yes, he had that one game where he came back at 6, he played really well. But he played like a fullback. Like, he can jump in attack at 6 at any time from fullback. Any time. And we saw that on the weekend. Sometimes Tyson Gamble was out the back.
Yeah.
Keep him at fullback. He looks so free and happy there, and he's just killing it. So,
and just to add, so was his first game back at fullback Manly?
I think it was 2 games ago.
So he played the Roosters there, Broncos there, I believe Manly there.
It was after Origin, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Origin won.
And just, he played round 13.
Yeah, Manly, Brisbane, and Roosters.
Yeah,
played
and
for.
just no head knocks.
Yeah.
Like he's back at fullback, the best we've seen KP string 7 weeks together, which is beautiful.
Yep.
The first 2 weeks he came back, I think he had head knocks in both those games. Maybe I might have been one HIA, got through him okay, but you're still worried. He's just looks so much safer back there.
Fuck.
Out of the carnage of the frontline defence.
What about when he was sweeping down that left edge and he caught that ball at top speed? Like, he's just a freak.
He's
Like, he
so
knows to
good.
do things.
And I actually think that, he's built his body up to be a 5'8". So we're not even seeing the best version of KP fullback. In this off-season, he'll go back, he'll lose some muscle mass, because I think he needs to lose a bit of muscle mass. I actually think he's a bit too big. Because when was the last time you saw KP pull off a mad step?
Yeah. I mean, like, you could just, like, even in the preseason, just looking at training pictures of him, it was evident.
Yeah,
He'd put
much
on
bigger.
weight. Yeah.
And so I reckon lose a bit of muscle mass and he'll be even better next year. So
2020, Newcastle versus Bulldogs, Suncorp Stadium,
Oh, mate.
no crowd. And he cut inside,
Oh,
so I can visualise it all.
Foreign.
Foz.
Cut inside Foz, and you just went, oh, that was the last time I saw him put off a mad step for the record.
And he's a bit lighter back then, so I reckon that they should try to get him back down to his usual weight. But geez, he is so fucking good to watch. It's just keep him there, please. Just keep him there. And the good thing now for the Knights, like surely, recruitment going forward, you don't need a fullback. You need some halves, and just make the decision and stick to it. This back and forth over the last few years with KP at 6, it has just destroyed their recruitment. They've got Lockie Miller sitting in reserve grade and they lost their best front rower coming through.
Yeah.
And this is in hindsight, Hero. We were literally discussing it at the start when it happened. We're like, I don't know if you want to lose a good guy that young. Anyway, so the Knights season, it's such a hard one to judge. I would say it's a pass mark considering everything that's happened. They've stayed in the fight in a lot of games. They've showed way more grit than I thought they've grown into a gritty side. I think there was a period there where they would let games go. So I actually think they're doing okay. They definitely missed Marju. They definitely missed Marju coming out of trouble. So even though they lost to a very understrength Roosters and it was at home, I just love the fact that they fought in till the end.
Yeah, it just was a game they should have won.
I know. Fuck.
And it's so easy to say that, and winning's a habit, but fuck, this is just... It wasn't because of lack of opportunities. It wasn't because of lack of ability. It was just they just weren't able to ice that moment.
Fuck.
And I mean, when we watched them a couple of weeks ago live play Parramatta, it was like they were training cones. It gets heaps worse than this, and I get that. But Christ, coming up against the Roosters side with that many people out, Kira getting injured during the game, and you created enough opportunities to win, tough pill to swallow for Knights fans.
Oh, absolutely. It's just when you watch the game though, at least they were there.
Yeah,
I know that sounds like a massive cop out. Look, if they had a loss 34-14 or something, then I'd be like, oh, that's fucking pretty bad. But that it was just the fact that it was that last path. So it's kind of like the Origin analogy. It's like all the ingredients were there to win the match. It was just the execution right at the end that cost them the win, which is tough to swallow as a Knights fan because you're like, are you serious? Just ice it. Just ice the match. So that's why it's really, me personally anyway, it's really hard to judge this performance by the Knights. What do you reckon, Timmy?
Yeah. You can look at it either way.
Yeah.
You can look at it as definitely a game they should have won against the Roosters with all the troops out. But then you can also go, you know what? Knights had a few players out as well. They had every chance to win the game. It was there for the taking. As you said, they didn't ice opportunities. I would very much more be in the disappointed category of they should have won the game, but it's not the end of the world for them.
Yeah. I think the one thing for me is just the close score. That's what makes it kind of a bit digestible, but they absolutely should have won the game. There's no if, buts, or maybes. The two first tries that the Roosters scored was just the misses in defence were really, really poor. Not to NRL standard. And so just those moments of lack of concentration just annihilates them. And they do all these other things really well. Yeah. So as I said, very, very hard game to it's hard. I don't want to be too harsh on them, but at the same time, they definitely should have iced it. So I'm caught in between those two.
Tough one.
Anyone stand out for you guys outside of KP?
I'll tell you, a guy that I probably didn't expect to go as well as he had, Dylan Lucas, who's made the move from an outside back to a back rower. He's held his own out there. I didn't really see that coming. A move I didn't see coming at all. He's done pretty well. I thought Adam Elliott was solid once again, as he always is, but outside of that, mate, not too much. A lot of missed tackles for Newcastle.
Yeah.
Jesus, only two blokes that didn't miss tackles, fullback and one of the wingers, and a lot of multiple missed tackles there as well.
I thought Dan Gagai was really good.
Yeah, I thought Gagai was probably, a bit unsung in this game. Especially, as you said, with Marju out, they lost a lot of their yardage. He came out, had 21 runs for 176 metres, 10 tackle busts.
Yeah.
It's pretty immense. I thought Gagai was good.
At the age he is, he could have been so disappointed about the Origin situation. He's clearly fallen down the pecking order substantially. He's behind Coates now. and he might be behind Oates. And so very easy for him to drop his lip. But since then, yeah, he's had some missed tackles or whatever, but at least he's ripping and tearing. And I think that's the saving grace for me at the moment with the Knights. Okay, some of the stuff is not NRL standard, but they are ripping and tearing.
It's not a lack of effort.
Yeah, they're fucking having a dig. So that's where whereas earlier in the year when I was a bit harsh, a little bit harsh on them, it was the fact that they just let the game go.
Yeah.
That kills me more than ripping and tearing and losing a game you should have iced.
And I also think as well, I think that's reflected in their recruitment this year. Hastings, Gamble, Elliott, Lockie Miller. Are they superstar footballers? No, but fuck, they are competitors.
Yeah.
They go at it. They might not have the ability of other guys in their positions, but God, they just go at it and give everything they've got.
Yeah. So, yeah, fuck. It's a toughest pill to swallow because when you watch that game, you're like, bro, there was 10 minutes to go. You had 3 chances to score and you didn't score them. But I've done it probably the last couple of weeks, but I've got to give Adam O'Brien credit. He was out the door. He was gone skis. And he's managed to just pull this together. And although it's not a good season, as I said, all the things that you can't teach, ripping and tearing, they've done that for at least, they've been one odd week where they've struggled, but outside of that, they've been quite tenacious in my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, before we get to the next segment, store shout-outs. Mary G's, Seth and Johnny doing big job with the Celebration Superstore in Lismore. Mary G's in Lismore. Red Beret Hotel, Red Lynch and Dave. Red Lynch? That's weird. It says Red Lynch. Anyway. Lynch and Dave, I'd assume, and the team are the ones to see at the Bottom Mart drive-thru on the north side of Cairns. Dicey's Liquor Barn, great supporters in Gladstone. Bocarina Beach, big celebration store in Kawana near the Sunny Coast Stadium. Full Moon Hotel, Bottom Mart Liquor Barn and drive-thru. Say good day to Scott and his team at Sandgate. Bottom Mart, Bracken Ridge, go in and see a Jaeger. He will look after you. X-Golf, Inogra, drink bloke, play golf. Redcliffe League Clubs, home of the Dolphins. Broncos League Club, head to Alfie's Bar, that's where it will be. And Normanby Hotel, now stocking bloke, many good times there, just in time for State of Origin 2. Now let's get to Eels versus Manly. And before we get into it, a couple of young lads went down to the game. Yourself, Tom, Eddie, what happened, boys?
Yeah, mate, we had a good time. Shout out to Parramatta. They invited us out to the Field Club. Best game day experience in rugby league, Kempy. You'd love it there.
Would I?
You would thoroughly enjoy yourself.
It's no sun court.
Called for. We had a great time though. We got the Hummerzine, I think it was called, out there. So you got the full experience.
So did the Eels set that all up?
No, Tom and Eddie set all Hummerzine up.
Okay.
So that was good fun. Eddie wasn't even able to come in it with us, so it was just us and Tom.
What?
Prize winners. So he met us out there, but we had a good time.
Oh, prize winners. Was there someone else?
Yeah, we had some. Parramatta gave us 2 tickets for using break even, so we had 2 prize winners. We got on in the Hummerzine and popped champagne, and Matty reached in to get 3 glasses and smashed 2 on arrival.
Oh my god!
It wasn't even on arrival. We actually hadn't left the driveway. We hadn't left the driveway yet.
Engine wasn't turned on.
And Matty smashing glassware and everything all over the place. We took off, all was good. And then we had to do the pre-game entertainment, which was getting out in the middle to catch bombs.
It was meant to be half-time, but we got brushed for Tiger Lily.
Just fair play. She
Yeah.
did a great show, by the way, so credit to her. Lovely lady, by the way, Tiger Lily. Haven't had much to do with her in my life. That'll shock everyone out there. She's a very nice lady. So we went out there pre-game. We were sort of joking before. Me and Tim were ready to go out there and take bombs, and just before we left, Kempy rang us, like all good parents do, and said, "Hey, can you take your little brother with you?"
That is not true.
Sure, we'll take Matty with us. Fine. And me and Tim, we caught 2 from 2 bombs. Matty, 0 from 2. Now, we will fully support and we will always stand with Matty always. But next time I'm entering a bomb competition, I shan't be taking Matty with me.
Look, I think it's more Parry Eels wanted us to lose. I think that there's some kind of operation against Team Bloke, and I back Matty all the way.
Yeah, I don't know if you got to watch the catches up close. I don't know how you
Look, I've
feel.
seen him, and was that ball regulation? Was it ball regulation? I don't know.
So Tom and Eddie went first, and neither of them got within a postcode of catching their first one. And me and Tim thought, how good's this?
There's been an official change to the rugby league vernacular. The dictionary's been updated with all the rugby league terminology over the years, and it used to be hands like bars of soap for people that can't catch a footy. It's now hands like Hello Sport.
Oh, yeah, hands like Hello Sport. I like that.
Two blokes under a high ball. Like, we give Matty a bit of stick, but Tom and Eddie, they weren't far off.
And also, don't believe the propaganda coming out of Hello Sport today. There'll be a bunch of propaganda, real dictator kind of shit, head of media kind of stuff. So don't believe the propaganda. The boys went 2 from 2.
4 from 4 all up.
4 from 4 all up.
Yep.
And Hello Sport went what?
They both went 2 from 3.
2 from 3 each.
And juggled their 4 that they caught too, mate.
Put it this way, it was going to be sort of myself and Guru versus the boys, and they said, we'll pin like Tim, you go up against, I think it was Tom first up, then it was Guru and Eddie, and they said, but like if they drop balls or whatever and you two both get him, it was to play off to go into the final. So it was actually meant to be me and Guru, but the little fella over here, Matty tagged along, just had to restructure the competition. So Tom and Eddie should have had their one catch, dropped it. They wouldn't even had their second crack at it. So
here we are, like in the final, and I'm getting ready to go up and take the next catch. And the guy on the mic goes, "No, Matty, it's your turn." I went, "Fuck," and Tim went, "Fuck," and Matty went, "Fuck."
Oh, well, look, you're a rookie, Matt. Plenty of us had bad debuts, mate. You'll be back. You'll bounce back better than ever. It'd just be at another club, that's all. Anyway, great times. Great from the Eels too to get so involved in the podcasting scene.
Mate, we had these 2 passes to give away, and we said to Parramatta that we would give it to the person who picked the highest scoring player from Parramatta's game last week in Supercoach, and it was the weekend of Jared Croker's 300th, and Parramatta said, no, do it for Jared Croker. See if people can predict Jared Croker's score.
That's cool.
Huge shout out to Parramatta.
Yeah.
Huge nudge there. Didn't make it about themselves or anything. It was fantastic. Put on a really good show out there.
It is a good stadium. It is a bloody good stadium. So, yeah, great stuff from the Eels there. Let's get into the game. More great stuff from the Eels. 34-4. Oh, I mean, players being out for either side almost just cancel each other out. Tommy, DCE out, obviously, Jake Trbojevic out, but also Eels, they're missing players as well. So that'll essentially cancel themselves out. Massive win for the Eels. Absolutely, almost season-changing. Manly, on the other hand, huge concerns. Like, yes, they're missing players, but this Manly that doesn't seem to know what kind of team it wants to be. 1 week it's good, 1 week it's not. Getting really concerned because Manly's squad is a fucking good squad, but they just cannot put together, good performances after each other. I'd understand if they were a Bulldogs building, even a Dragons or a Tigers, but this Manly squad, when they all play well, are a top 4 side. And I know their key players weren't there this week, but neither were Para Eels. So we'll speak about Eels first, though. We'll speak about the positive. Eels, outstanding. DeJean Arce, he was unbelievable. He has been so good since coming into grade. It's shocked me that he hasn't come into grade earlier for the Eels when they've been a bit short outside backs. He was outstanding. Obviously, Sivo scored 8 tries in 8 games against the Seagulls prior to Saturday night. It came close, but it was yet not to be. How crazy is it Sivo's essentially at the top of the try-scoring props, but has he set the world alight this year? Like, have the Eels set the world alight this year? Probably not, and yet he's at the top.
Without knocking Sivo and any because that's another remarkable feat, because he's just a prolific try scorer season after season. It says so much about the blokes inside him. The amount of space they get him, and we look at fullbacks that can ice that 3-on-2, Gutho to him, that combination, and I'd like to credit to Sivo that he times his run and everything perfectly every single time. But Gutho, Dill Brown when he was there, Dion Arce, they've all just, that edge is so in sync.
Yeah, it is. And, mate, like Gutho, how many clubs would kill for a fullback like Gutho?
Isn't his ball playing underrated?
So underrated. And his consistency.
I know he came in, at Manly under Brett Stewart. Like, his ball playing reminds me of Brett Stewart so much. Everything's a little bit unorthodox. The ball reverse spirals somehow. It's always at a weird angle, but Gutho, very rarely nowadays does he ever get these moments wrong.
Yeah. He's so good. And he doesn't get put in the same category as the top tier, and fair enough. But usually when a guy is that good at ball playing, their ball running game suffers to a degree if you're not considered a top tier. Whereas he gets through a mountain of work, incredible, one of the best defensive fullbacks in the game, arguably the best try saver in the game.
Will they lose their 3 playmakers from round 1 in Brown, Moses and Hodgson? And you're all right, where's the creativity going to come from? Where are the points going to come from? Gutho just steps up every time he needs to.
Yeah.
It's remarkable.
It's so good. To score 34 points without your 6, 7 and starting 9 is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
And then you even add in missing Sean Lane, who last year was the focal point of their attack a lot of the time.
Yep. Bailey Simonson had easily his best game of the season, scoring 2 tries and 206 metres, 5 tackle breaks, 2 line breaks. The thing is that this is the standard that Bailey can play at. Now it's just about doing that week in, week out, and it's about sorting out a few errors in the game. This is probably why he's kept his spot when he's had a few errors in his game or a few misreads, is because Brad Arthur probably sees this at training and he's put it all together. He really was really good on the weekend. Obviously I'll leave it to you, Guru, but who else was good on the weekend?
Don't know what you're talking about, mate. No, Hopgood, though, he was tremendous. 1 try. I think he had another try assist. He was just everywhere, Jermaine. And, went through that Queensland side before, and I probably couldn't pick Jermaine over any of those guys, but if Slater did go for Jermaine over those guys, you could completely understand it. He's playing at a level that I think he is ready to play Origin. Such a good story, Jermaine. He's hasn't had it easy. I forget the exact storyline, but I believe his father went out to play junior league one day and passed away. So hasn't had it easy, Jermaine. The thing I've always loved about him, and I think it's people don't probably appreciate just how hard it is, but for him, he's been playing reserve grade now for years. He would have been told so many times that it was over. You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. And for him to hang around in reserve grade and just go through those tough years where when you get to 23, 24, it's looking harder and harder that you're going to be able to crack it in first grade. And for him to do what he's done and now be sort of in those conversations for Origin, such a tremendous effort from him.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally, it's so easy to get a 23, 24-year-old age, and if you're playing reserve grade, you're almost taking up a spot in the top 30. And so clubs will go, oh, look, you are a better player than this 18-year-old, but this 18-year-old has probably more potential than you.
Yeah. And especially when it was during that COVID period as well. So many New South Wales Cup careers ended because of COVID.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many guys that had the potential but just went, you know what, I have to get back to reality here. If it hasn't happened yet, it's probably not going to. And I'm sure that Hopgood at some point would have had that conversation with his missus, mates, whatever it might be. And I just love that he backed himself. He's got himself into a first grade system now. And, mate, he's a genuine fan favourite out there.
Yeah, they love him.
They love him out there.
Ryan Madison at 6. I thought it was bloody fantastic. It was great. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. Passed decently when he needed to, but then just ran the ball. 163 metres, 43 post contact, 5 tackle breaks, and then he made 21 tackles. And actually growing up, I think Ryan Madison was a 6.
He was.
Yep. Played bits and pieces of 6 at the Roosters in the NRL as well.
Yeah, so, what a guy to fall back on. I think when it got named, a lot of people were like, Ryan Madison at 6, he's huge. But, again, Dejearn Arce, I hope I'm saying that right, Arce? Dejearn Arce? Is that how you say it?
Assie, I think it is, yeah.
Dejearn Arce. Who would have thought, Assie and Madison would be a 6 and 7 combination on top? Or actually go even further. Hands, Assie, and Madison. And they put 34 points on Manly.
St. Hands getting interesting now.
Yep. I think you keep him there. They're on a trot.
Yeah. Hodgson out injured at the moment. I think it's a bit of a mystery neck injury. And, not a heap to read into, obviously, but, we saw him getting around the ground the other day. He doesn't look too hampered. Without knowing the depths of what's going on there. I wouldn't be surprised if he is available pretty soon. Tough decision on their hands there.
I think I think he's earned the starting spot. They're 4 on a trot. I think he's earned it. And I think even before Hodgson got injured, I was considering it anyway. So I think you bring Hodgson off the bench for two reasons. A, I think Hands has earned that starting role for now, but also I like him better off the bench. Keep him fresh. Get him around the ruck for 10 minutes either side of half time, or even like whenever 20 minutes in total or 30 minutes in total, just probing around the ruck without having to deal with making 40 tackles a game. Because he's a bit older now. How old is he now? 33, 34?
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I like Hands there. The more time Hands is going to be there, the better he's going to be as well. So yeah, really, really good win for the Eels. I thought it was good. Ogden had some good moments. I thought he was good. 142 metres. And just such a confidence-boosting win for the Eels. To be able to do this with so many players out, they just rocket themselves back into the top 8, and all of a sudden, the season's back on again. They're even a chance. They may not reach it. They're even a chance of top 4. So the Rabbitohs they're one win from the top 4, and all of a sudden, a year where they were grand finals last year and it looked like a disaster is turned into, if they go out and win again, and they've played 15 games as well. So they basically are top 4.
Yeah, so yeah, round 18 bye, round 27 bye.
So like technically now, Rabbitohs have played 15 games as well. But Storm, but they're 2 points ahead. Yeah, so they're one win outside the 8, outside the 4, which is just insane. Could you imagine they make a late run? Far out.
I thought they were gone after round 5 or round 6. Just the way that it started and everything they've had to overcome and whatnot, so incredible. Wasn't it a weird weekend for try scorers? Like, obviously Alex Twal scored, but then your Hazeltons, your Jack Williams. Like, Parramatta had Makatoa and Ogden both score tries.
Yeah.
Week of the ultimate battler. It's fantastic.
Love it.
There were a lot of, let's call it New South Wales Cup quality tries that you see just blokes crashing through the middle. Like, that's so New South Wales Cup.
Now on to Manly. Look, really, as I said, really concerned with Manly because they come out, set the world alight, and you're going, wow, top 4 side. And then the next week, they are the total opposite of that. They didn't fire a shot. Like, they were barely in the game.
And, mate, you could see in their warm-up, they were high, they were ready to go, and then they watched Tom and Eddie completely shit the bed, and you just saw it deflated them.
Yeah. It's a Hello Sport loss.
I think so. I think it's fair.
I think it's fair as well.
Put it this way, Jason Saab didn't look like dropping a ball in the start of his warm-up. Then I saw him watching on as Tom and Eddie got under the high ball, and you just saw a part of him dying, so going, they're our number 1 supporters. They can't catch a bomb.
That was the most frustrating thing when we were doing the bomb. Like this literally happened. I could see Brad Parker and Burbo in the corner, and every time Tom and Eddie catch on, they'd cheer, and every time we call one, they'd be like, fuck.
Really?
Literally. Yeah.
That's hilarious. So with Manly, look, there's not really much to be stoked about, to be honest. There's, try to be glass half full and whatever, but there weren't really that many performances that you can look at and go, this was a really bad day for Manly.
I just think there's two ways you can look at it, and my initial thought is whatever they're missing the blokes we know they're so reliant on in Tom Trbojevic, Daly Evans, and Jake Trbojevic. Those blokes are all going to come back into their team within the next week or two, whenever it might be, and they could set the world alight and put 50 on anyone in the competition. So I'm like, I don't really care that they got pumped on a bike without those players, but why is it at this stage that they can't even compete without these blokes in their team? Where's the DNA in the jersey that they go, we've got players out, we need to live for this 1 week or these 2 weeks around Origin time without these players? You come to expect this when they've got Tommy Turbo in particular out, but you drop all 3 of them. They didn't have to win this game, but you wanted to see them deliver a lot more than that.
And obviously we were out there, so maybe my read was wrong, but I felt like 34-4 almost complimented Manly. I thought there was a number of times where Parramatta crossed the strike. I felt there was a try taken off Parramatta every 10 minutes.
Para had 62% of the possession.
So, they ran for... Para ran for 1,930 metres, Manly 1,130. They almost doubled their metres. I don't know exactly how this stat is calculated, but on a night that, Manly players, fans, it wasn't a great night under the high ball, Para had 83% kick defusals. Manly were 27%. So when I say I don't know how it's judged, I don't know like in the sense of, if it's chipped into space, like how that equates sort of thing. But on any given day, 27% can't be good, especially when your opposition are at 83.
Yeah. The other big one that stands out for me, you don't see it very much, is the average set distance.
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
40.25 for Parramatta, 31 for Manly.
Mate, like even their like completion rate, 66% completion, and also tackle breaks. They only broke 12 tackles the whole game compared to 42 from the Eels.
I'll go give them one positive. I loved the one and only try that they did score, Twal in that corner, and it was a lot of their youth and probably a big part of their future, at least most of them. And it was Schuster going to the line, do what he does, squaring up, playing late, went out the back to Weeks. Weeks had a really nice tip on for Kohler. Kohler really nice tip on. It was a lovely try from the four of them. What I found interesting was the impact of when we talk so much about left side, right side, all this sort of stuff. It's pretty nerdy NRL sort of stuff when you get down to the nitty gritty of it. Kohler's ball playing, he had some really nice catch and pass efforts on that, being right to left, which looked more natural to him. So when he made that switch with Ruben Garrick last week, going from right where he normally plays to the left, thought his ball playing looked great. So that's something that Kohler, we know he can ball run. We know he's a great defender. Yeah, there's more to him than we've seen.
Do you think Garrick should be at fullback when Tommy's out?
I would, yes.
100%.
Because like KO Weeks, he's had 2 opportunities there now and hasn't
He's
really
had more than 2.
Yeah.
He's had a few, yeah.
And I'm a big fan of KO, but he just doesn't seem like a fullback. He seems like more of a half.
Wasn't it so weird? Like when he was playing hooker for those few games, I just looked at him and went, geez, he is such a fullback. Now, as soon as he gets to fullback, I agree. I
thought
think
he-
he's probably more of a ball player.
Yeah, I thought he was a fullback as well. Like I was like, fuck, he'd be good, quick, great ball playing, good footwork, but I don't know. He just doesn't seem to feel comfortable there. He just doesn't seem to be, really. He looks more comfortable at hooker.
Yeah, I'd definitely be playing Ruben Garrick there. That's really surprised me that Garrick's ended up at, centre at all spots, not fullback.
Yeah, even though Garrick was outstanding last week at centre, I'd be putting him back to fullback.
100%. Yeah, and I'm still not convinced on Garrick at centre personally. I know it was easy to say last week because but you don't judge guys in 60-point victories. I think you've got 100 odd first grade games of him being a premium winger. That's where I'd be playing him.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still ambiguous. I don't know whether he, from the games I've seen him play centre, which is 1, he killed it. So
DCE unlocked him last week. Those just flat face balls straight to him, got him one-to-one in a bit of space, and he killed. So reassess next week.
yeah, so I want to see more games at centre before I say that he's not a centre.
I'm not saying no. I just think I think he's a better winger for sure.
Yeah.
I guess it just depends on what the club needs at this time.
Yeah.
And also, actually, no, I still want to see a bit more at centre. I still want to see a little bit more. He's a gun winger, we know that. But, when DC returns and if he's kills it again, he could build a really good combination with DC. And also, it may help improve Kohler's ball playing if he moves to the other side. But, yeah, got to talk about it. But, Schuster, pretty quiet. Unfortunately, when you get the big bucks, and you get all the negative headlines, and that's a lot of pressure. But unfortunately, these are the games where you need to step up and take the team by the scruff of the neck. And unfortunately, I just don't know if I know that he's a 6, but when you're the 850 grand player or whatever, that's your job, in my opinion. And he's in his, 3rd or 4th year now of first grade. It's not, he's still a rookie, yeah, and he's not. No one comes into first grade as a complete player. But I did think he would offer a little bit more and stand up a little bit more when they needed him.
Without being boring, I don't have much to add. I agree with everything you just said. I was expecting more from him. They needed more from him in this game. And once again, I was out there, so I don't have the best vibe on it, but there was a lot of times where I was sort of just thinking, where is Josh Schuster? How many touches of the footy did he have? Where's his 38? Yeah.
I'll go into bat for him a little bit in the sense that it was absolutely, quite obviously, an off night for him, but I say it time and time again, but when you're in a side that are so well beaten, like how much possession did they have in the Eels half where he shines and can get that opportunity to attack?
That's fair.
Bugger all. One of the few chances he did get there, he had a big role in that try that they scored. And as you said, Kempy, he's a 6. Like, he's on decent money there, and hopefully has a big future at the club.
Who do you reckon's on more money, him or Dearden?
I don't know what either of them are on.
Well, I reckon Dearden's definitely not on more money.
I reckon Schuster's on more, yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where I go, Dearden, stepped up and, rips and teared.
But I don't think that is, he was a back rower his career up until this point in the NRL, and now he's obviously gone to 5'8". He's just such a prototype, big ball running, not necessarily ball running 5'8", great ball playing, but he's also not the halves player that is going to get you around the park and dominate a game with his kicking, any of that.
Oh, I didn't expect that from him, not at all. I expected an lifted intensity, a heap of ball runs, bring what he can bring to the game.
Yeah.
I'm not expecting him to come in and get the boys around the park or whatever, but I just more expected with all your big dogs out, you'd want to have 20 runs or something that. And coming out of his end, tucking the ball under and saying, boys, follow me. How old is he now? And what year is he in first grade? As I said, for example, I think Dearden and him are the same age. And Dearden, and now, you could say Dearden's played an extra year or so, but Dearden, when the team needed him because his players were out, he was ripping and tearing.
Yeah, fair.
And I just think, I don't know if we see the beautiful silky stuff, and we have been so pro Schuster here in regards to his talent. It genuinely is unmatched. But there's situations like this where he just needs to just go, you know what? I can change things here. I am the only player on the field right now with crazy talent that can win the game for his team. And I just thought that he could have got a bit more involved.
So they're both 22.
Yeah.
Schuster debuted in 2020 for one game, so won't count that. So his first full year was 2021, 2022, 2023. Whereas Dearden, he debuted in 2019, had a handful of games, had a half a season in 2020, kind of half a season in 2021 as well, and then had a full season in 2022.
So how many games has Dearden played? How many games has Schuster played?
Dearden's played 71 NRL games. Schuster's played 42.
And so, are they playing at 40 games difference? 30 games difference? Probably not. And also you got to remember Dearden's where he got absolutely treated the Broncos.
I'm taking Dearden every day of the week as it stands.
And so that's why I'm saying it's comparable. Dearden when the game, and look, as I said, they're very different players, but I just think that Schuster is so talented. You are the man. You are the man. And sometimes if you've got that talent, it's also a responsibility as well. You're getting paid well. You're the next guy up, tuck the ball under and take 20 runs if you have to. Just show the boys that you're,
Yeah, I think that's fair.
And I'm not saying that the loss was his fault at all. Their forwards got completely dominated. They completed 66%. He didn't drop everyone's ball. I just more mean I see him as the next superstar. That's how good I think he can be. If he was less talented, I wouldn't even say anything.
Yeah, as you said, there's a responsibility that comes
because he's so good.
Yeah.
He's so good, and he's shown that he's so good. But like you guys were saying as well, geez, his forwards didn't help.
Yeah,
they really didn't. When you look at the meters run and the errors made, completing at 66% is pretty wild. Paseka had probably one of his worst games, unfortunately. He had 4 errors. Saab struggled under the high ball. So, yeah. Is the Manly Seagulls season over? Absolutely not. But this up and down, it's very hard to cop because, for example, the Newcastle Knights, they don't have the ceiling right now that Manly do. So you can kind of, at least, whereas the Manly is just so up and down.
Yeah, and I think what Tim said before is what stands out for me, that, when you take these, 2 of those big 3 players out, or all 3 of them, it's it just falls into a heap. And it just shouldn't be the reality. Fine that you don't win.
Yeah, don't need to win, no way.
But you don't need to fall into a heap like that.
Every time.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Hopefully they bounce back next week. But the problem is even if they do bounce back next week, so it's okay, well, what's the next week going to look like? I want to see 3 to 4 games of what we know they can do. Now, on to Tigers v. the Storm. Storm, once again, they're just they just don't allow themselves to spiral into poor footy. They will find a way to play good footy. It doesn't matter what's going on at the club, doesn't matter what's going against them, they just refuse to give in. Like, they just refuse. It's unbelievable. They're sitting equal second right now. They are still a premiership threat, even though if you looked at the matches when they play, that you're like, these aren't even close to the Melbourne Storm we've known from yesteryear. But they're still there.
I know they're worlds apart, Manly and Melbourne, but we just spoke about what Manly do without their stars. Melbourne don't have Cam Munster, Harry Grant, Ryan Pappenhausen, Eli Katoa was out on the weekend, like big outs.
Justin
Olam. And then they go away to Campbelltown Stadium and win 28-6.
Yep.
Like, that's the difference.
And I think that's showing. Christian Welch also out. Yeah, Christian Welch was also out. Fuck. And, it's you're right. Like, it's hard to compare because Melbourne are the benchmark of it. But you got to beat the benchmark. Like, if that's who you want to be, they've got all these players out, and look what they just managed to do. Towel up, essentially. Well, I know the Tigers are missing Appy and Brooks, but just towel up the Tigers away. And it hasn't been an easy year for the Storm. Like, it's not like they went in with red-hot form and they all could just get on the back of it. So, yeah, Storm, unbelievable. Seriously, like, Will Warbrick, hasn't he warmed into the season? Jeez. Came in first few games, it looked like, maybe it's a little bit too soon, getting used to NRL. Ever since those first, 2 or 3 games, he's just getting better and better and better. Like, imagine what he's going to be like in a year or two.
Yeah, he's
so
got a big
good.
future ahead of him.
Massive.
Yeah. It's wild how Melbourne just keep doing this, don't they? Like, I feel like more and more nowadays I'm sort of like, geez, they have a bad game, they will bounce back the next week. And that isn't always the exact way with Melbourne, but they never put together 3 bad weeks. They always find a way to pull themselves out of a potential big hole that a lot of clubs could fall into.
Yeah.
Like, the Roosters are absolutely star-studded at the moment. I feel like they've fallen into a little bit of a hole despite the win on the weekend. I just don't think that would happen to this Melbourne Storm side.
They just refuse.
They just don't, yeah.
They just refuse to allow that to happen.
I don't know if I was saying it was Beers and Break, even though it was on Bloke last Monday, but might have been on Bloke, and just talking about, like, Nelson Sofa-Solomona, when he obviously spent a lot of time on the edge on the weekend, and I just feel like games where they do get bigger minutes into him. Was I saying, did you camp here last Monday?
Yeah, I think so.
And I feel like they get results with him playing bigger minutes. Obviously, it's not Bellyache's preference to do it with him, and we'll talk about, managing the load of a bloke that size. Maybe you don't want too many big minutes, but again, like, played 58, far above his season average, what he normally does. Did the same last week, and just big wins both times. He's so vital to this team. I just wanted to try and make that 55 to 60 minutes his norm, because
I think
it works.
I think in yesteryear they could afford to not do that, but I think he's so crucial now that they just don't have the luxury.
Yeah.
They don't have the luxury to sit him there and go, 30 minutes a game or whatever. Whereas, a few years ago, they had such a good team that it's like, yeah, okay, we can rest our big boy, but you're right, I agree. The longer he's on the field, the better.
Yeah.
They just look a completely different... When he's on the field, they start looking like the Melbourne Storm that we know they are, like just dominant teams. But yeah, like them to go out without Harry Grant, without Pappenhausen, without Munster, like Christian Welch is also out, Katoa out, Olam out. Like, it's phenomenal. It really is.
We already spoke about him. Will Warbrick, obviously, 4 tries. Like, he was unlucky to not score 5 there.
Yeah.
He had a day. Imagine scoring 4 tries in a game, Timmy. Could you imagine it?
You probably did it a few times in your career, mate.
One of us did.
Kamitha is getting, he's starting to pick up a fair bit of the load. I think he's starting to like really grow into that key forward for them, which is, very Storm-esque, where they just year on year, they add 10% to the game, add 10% to the game. I thought Pezzett had some good moments, but I thought it was Jerome Hughes probably his best game this year.
And isn't that, once again, you come back to, and I know they're different players, and it's probably not fair to compare Hughesy to Josh Schuster there, but all their stars were gone. And I don't feel like Craig Bellamy would have grabbed Hughes and gone, hey, I need you to step up today.
Yeah.
Hughes would have just gone, yeah, okay, this is my team today now. I've got to make it work.
Absolutely. Anything else on the Storm?
All good, mate.
No, just good all round, did what they had to do.
Just good signs for the season. Like, Storm fans, you're second. You're in the top 2 essentially, but definitely in the top 4. Like, it sounds crazy to say, but they can win the premiership. it was like 3 weeks ago where I was like, I don't know if they could win the premiership this year.
And it's these sort of wins that are so important at the back end of the season as far as where you finish on the ladder. Like, for them in a bye round, missing guys to go to Campbelltown. It's been a Tiger side that's been on a bit of a high the last few weeks. They're just so important.
It's so important. And to do it the way they did, it wasn't a dogfight. They dominated. So, yeah, Melbourne Storm just continually proving us wrong. And they set themselves a standard that is... There's no other club that's gone for as long as they have. I think their win percentage is like substantially better than the next. Now, on to the Tigers. Look, as we said last week, with Brooks and Appy out, it's going to be a tough year for the Tigers. Obviously, the great Twal scoring was fantastic. Jerome Buller, once again, looks like an absolute star. I thought he was a real shining light for him. Isaiah Papali'i, I thought he had a really good game. Got through a mountain of work, had some like semi-line breaks, 41 tackles, had 2 line breaks, I think. 6 tackle breaks, a line break, 84 post contact, 192 metres. Like, that's a bloody knock. And that's all on the edge as well. Disappointing for sure, but what do you expect, honestly?
Oh, exactly right. And like as you said, missing Appy, missing Brooks, still missing Adam Dewey as well. Like at the start of the season, it was going to be those 3 that were going to have to really stand up this season. To lose all of them, I don't know. I looked at this game before it on paper and just thought, this one's done. Huge effort by the Tigers. They managed to get up for it, but I was never going to hold it against them. If they like to think we're watching the Tigers and they're starting halves of Brandon Wakeham and stuff attire. It's wild.
Yeah, as I said, the shining light is Buller.
Yep.
Like, he is just so good. Fuck, he's good.
Debutant off the bench too, Talon De Silva. Came on, played about 30 minutes or so. Very talented kid with a big future. So, shit night for the Tigers, but there are silver linings there for the future for sure.
Now, onto the Sharkies versus the Doggies. 48-10. Bulldogs obviously missing a few players, and then Matt Burton going. It's almost like nail and coffin stuff. Look, the Sharkies did exactly what they were supposed to do. They were supposed to go and win 13+ against Bulldogs. Still a little bit shaky, in my opinion. They still don't look as well-rounded as I would hope. But 48-10, you can't sniff it. You can't put your nose up against that.
Yeah, I don't think the Sharkies would be overly happy with this performance at all. Yes, they scored 48 points, but Canterbury, they just couldn't get out of their own end. I've never seen anything like that when Reid Marnie had to scoot down the short side to belly bomb a ball.
Isn't that a compliment on the Sharkies' defence, though?
Yeah, I guess that's fair to some extent. I thought with the ball in hand, they weren't overly impressive. The Sharkies nowhere near where we know that they can get to. I reckon if they would have played a top 8 side the other day, I think they would have got beat personally. I didn't think they were that great.
Yeah,
I know you're not saying they were great, fantastic,
yeah,
but
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't think they had 11 line breaks. Like, it's a fair whack. They completely dominated their forward pack. So I don't know whether they would have beaten the top 8 side, but I wouldn't say they were disappointing on the weekend. Timmy?
Yeah. Firstly, I feel sorry for the Doggies just because I still see so many shining lights in them, but this game was just set up for disaster. In that, you nailed it, like Burton getting caught up to Origins, it was just the final nail in the coffin for them this week. So I think 5 or 6 players under 21 years old. They've got, apparently coming out of the club, they've got blokes playing through injury. They're getting needled up just to get out there because they're so short on numbers this season. All the injuries they've had. There's news now that Luke Thompson might not even get back this season. It just goes from bad to worse to them. And look, the effort's still there, but the class on the field, they're just lacking at the moment. Hopefully they can start to get some faces back out soon, but... I wouldn't be too critical of the Doggies from this one, despite being a tough day out. Sharkies, as you said, Kempy, they won the way they should have won, convincingly. I also wasn't sold on them like Guru, but there's not much more. They almost put 50 points on the board. Attack was sharp enough. it's like you knew the Sharkies were going to come out and do this and put points on. They're just falling into this flat track bully narrative more and more. Like, when the tails are up and they've got soft opposition, they'll put a score on them. But then how are they backed up against a top 8 side or a top 4 side? Like,
I think it's like you can't judge the Sharks until they get up against a top side, because like that's the question everyone has.
We know they can put scores on when things are going well.
Yeah, so it's like, they're damned if they do, damned if they don't, because it's like they go out
that's fair.
and they put on a massive score against the Doggies, and it's like, yeah, we knew you could do that, whatever. But it's like, well, bloody still did it.
Yeah.
But
you want,
but at the same time, they haven't beaten a top 8 side this year. Is that correct?
Yep.
So it's like
that's
the question. That's the question, and it's a fair question. It's an absolutely fair question. So that's where I think that it can feel a little bit underwhelming from an analyst perspective, because you're like, well, of course you beat the Doggies 48-10. Like, you're the Sharks.
And you were like almost full strength going into this week when the Doggies were missing half their squad.
Yeah, and it's like, and then the Sharkies turn around. Well, it's not easy to beat a team 40. Like, what else do you want us to do? Beat them by 60?
Yeah.
Well, you'd probably still say the same thing. So,
I just know someone's going to comment. I'm obviously nitpicking, but I guess technically the Eels have snuck into the 8 now, so they have beaten one top 8 team as of today.
When they played them, they weren't top 8.
Yeah, 100%.
I'll tell you what else is wild. You ever look at Cronulla's draw over the next few weeks? They play Dragons, Tigers, Warriors, Manly, and then Penrith. So I think Warriors, is that the only... Are Warriors in the top 8 still?
Yeah, Warriors are. Yeah.
So out of their next 4 games, that'll be interesting. Sharks play Dragons round 18, so that's after this week's bye. So that'll be Ben Hunt's first game back.
Fucking hell, eh?
There.
But yeah, back to the Bulldogs. Look, even more so than the Schuster one, like, as I said with Schuster, like, it's because he's got so much talent that I just wanted to be a superstar and just rip and tear. But in games like this, Tavita needs to stand up. He needs to stand up. He was okay, but like, did it look like a guy trying to lead his team against all odds? I don't think it did. Yes, their middle did shore up when he got back on the field. But I just think in the position, he just come off Origin, and yes, he didn't get selected, but he just come off Origin, so he's an Origin player now. In scenarios like this, he's got to be the leader. Like, he is. We look at this pack. You've got Patola, Marnie, Pangai Jr., Ockenbaugh, Preston, and then Rajab on the bench, Moran, Max King, Waddell. Like, Pangai is the senior player here. He has played the most rugby league at the highest level, and he's got the most talent out of pretty much everyone there. So I thought he could be a little bit better. And, like, for example, Curtis Moran came on, and I think he had an error, but outside of that, he fucking was running from the fences.
Yeah. I was just about to say, if you were shown this Bulldogs team on the weekend and say how they got played off the park, but one of these forwards is an Origin forward, who would you go for? I reckon you would have picked Curtis Moran every day of the week.
Yeah, because he just come on angry.
Just going at it.
Yeah. And that's what I would want to see from Tavita in this situation, is like, your team's completely depleted. You're on massive money. You are the big dog. And like, with the Schuster situation, you don't have the excuse of being a rookie still, where we go, you're a rookie, you're in your second or third year of first grade, so it's going to take some time. Like, you're in your, 8th year of first grade now, and you're on big coin. So I would have hoped to see more from Pangai Jr. in this situation.
Yeah, the one that I've sort of been a bit disappointed by this year, and it kills me to say it because I love him so much, and he is a bloke who does rip and tear every single game, but Reid Marnie, I was sort of hoping for a brighter year, and sort of alluding to a couple of stats. He's had the most missed tackles in the NRL with 74, and quite convincingly, Ezra Mann's second on 60. That goes all the way down just to 5th place. Chad Townsend's on 51, so 5th place has had 23 less missed tackles than Reid. Going to penalties conceded, the most penalised player in the comp with 19. 2nd place is Cam Murray on 14. Note that Reid's played every game of the season for them, so might have a few extra games and a handful of players, but just defensively, I think because he is such a small hooker, he's a nugget, but he's quite small. I don't know if... Do you think maybe Canterbury need to go down this line of 2 hookers and give him a bit more of a spell so he's not forced to go 80 minutes week in, week out? I think you boys actually at the start of the year... I said
that they should, because Reid's the kind of guy... The reason why he's seen all these missed tackles is because he can't help himself. Yeah. He goes too hard.
Exactly right. There's no lack of effort.
Yeah.
And I think, Guru, you might have said it too, going there and the 2 hook, and I said, no, I think Reid Marnie's 80 can do it. the more I see it, I'm calm. Maybe he's just fatigued and he's a smaller body. Maybe he's more of a playing 55 and having a share in the load a little bit.
I just think that he had this same problem when he first came into the Eels, where he would just chase any and every tackle. And with the Bulldogs, because he's like, we talk about Tavita not stepping up, like Reed tried his ass off yesterday.
Always does.
Like, and he always does. So you can never, say that he isn't trying to put the boys on his back. But he actually tries too hard sometimes, and he goes after every tackle he can go after. And then that's when you get situations where you miss 6 to 10 tackles. And so I personally think that giving him a spell, how can it hurt? It's only going to make his career longer. He's going to get... Then you can say, look, then no longer do we have the idea of like, oh, because you're playing 80, you're getting fatigued. I think it's definitely worth a try. And I really like Khaled Rajab.
Rajab, yep.
I like him. I think that you chuck him in there for 10 minutes, give Reedy a spell, let Rajab just go nuts, because he's a goer. He's like Moran. They both came on and just had a crack.
And if nothing else, just try it. See how it goes. Give it a month of him playing, 55 minutes. See, because he's got such a great running game as well, Reed, but when he's making a shit ton of tackles each week, he'll be gassing out, so that fatigue sets in. I think we probably don't see the best of him in a tackle either. So I think it'll be worth a crack.
Yeah. I thought Flano was okay. I actually thought he was all right. But, he's probably played himself into being... Maybe he is that 14 for Reed Marnie. He's been killing it at number 9 for reserve grade. So this doggy side, they're so depleted, but at the same time, like, this is their second game in a row where they've been tailed up. Definitely concerning. Like, we looked at, a team like the Dolphins, and although I still think that, the Dolphins side is better on paper in regards to like this Bulldogs side, because it's got so many players missing. But the last thing you want is you want to be fighting in games. You want to be staying in them somehow. It's okay to lose a game or two, but the problem with the Bulldogs is that they're just letting these games just completely slide.
At the moment, is it only Stephen Crichton they've signed for next year? Is that...
Pretty sure.
Yeah. And that's where, I think Critter will be a really good signing, but he's not going to change that problem that they currently have.
It's just so hard because they're so decimated by injury.
Yeah.
Like, they are absolutely fucking out on their feet. Like, is Max King even 100%?
He mustn't be. It's weird how they're using him with his minutes and everything.
Because if he is 100%, then I would say Serraldo. Why is Serraldo not getting the best out of him?
Continually mind-blowing. Weekly Bulldogs New South Wales Cup stat. First grade, absolutely depleted. Doggies, 30-16 over the Panthers, who, granted, this week would have been missing players, obviously due to the Origin call-ups as well, but Panthers were sitting third on the table. Doggies still number 1, dominant New South Wales Cup win. That defies physics to me. The first graders are desperate, and the Doggies New South Wales Cup are killing it. I don't know who coaches them, but gun.
Doggies also signed Bronson Sherry next year.
Of course.
I will say it's surprising, like Max King and Waddell on the bench. Surely they should be starting.
A Max King one's an interesting. You'd have to, there must be something.
Maybe he's a bloke getting needled up and pushing through it because they need.
You'd have to be, because surely you'd start him over Patola. Like, Patola's a rookie, isn't he?
He's younger. He just a lot of injuries, Patolo. So they're just working him back into sort of time. Yeah,
they really like him though.
Yeah.
Did they? I'm just trying to think. So Max King. So he got 43 minutes, and Patola got 16 minutes.
Yeah, it must have been an injury.
Must have been an injury then.
To Patola. Patola, you get injured on the weekend?
I don't know. I missed it if he did.
And Corey Waddell only got 39 minutes. Yeah, I'm not sure. You could say that there are questions around some decisions Serraldo's made, and I guess, but it is very, very hard to be too harsh on this side. Like, they are so fucking injured.
Yeah, and I mean, like, you have a look at obviously the injuries and how he's reacted to most of them. Like, I think he's done really well just getting Jaden Ockenbaugh into he's somehow not only turned him into a back row, he turned him into an 80-minute back rower. You got Olawapu, who, you got to remember that, like, they plucked him from up there in Brisbane a few weeks before the season started. They brought him into first grade as well. Like,
Preston's killing it.
Yeah, like, he has done a lot of good things. despite the season not going well and it looking like it's going to get worse, unfortunately. Also lost Luke Thompson.
Can you get up a list of who they have injured so that we could get it? Luke Thompson, Burton out
in this one. Luke Thompson, Kikau. Luke,
They got Fatala Mariner, who should be. Apparently he's coming back to reserve grade next week. Bailey Biondi Odo, Harrison Edwards, and then everyone else you've mentioned.
See, I'm surprised Fatala Mariner is not coming straight in.
Oh, no, sorry, they have the bye, the doggies.
He's been crook, Fatala Mariner.
Oh, okay.
but they've got a bye next weekend, so
they've got a bye. Okay. So look,
Just quickly, New South Wales Cup coach, David Tangata Toa. Nothing?
No.
Yeah. Played some lower grade stuff, but
it's killing it.
Bit of Super League, killing it.
Davo.
Shout out David Tangata Toa.
Yeah, onto the Sharkies quickly. Yeah, so Bulldogs, disappointing for sure. But we were saying before it was a ball even kicked, don't get too excited, guys. The Dogs are more 2020 kind of 4 kind of side, 5 maybe. I will say, though, that I probably thought that they would go a little bit better than what they're going. But I didn't think they'd have this many injuries as well, though. To lose Kikau, that is such a big blow. Imagine how different this forward pack is with Kikau in it and everyone good to go. It's a very different, kettle of fish then. Now onto the Sharkies quickly. Look, as I said, we said earlier with Hines, started a bit slow, got it together. That's a really nice plays, and I think we have to remember, he won the Dally M last year, but it's going to take a few years for him to get everything well-rounded. So I thought Will Kennedy had some really tough carries. I think that there was a real emphasis from Will Kennedy to get physically in the game. He's so silky that sometimes he can just rely on his silkiness to inject himself. Whereas I felt like he really got physically into the game. Talakai always runs for a bunch of meters. Who stood out to you guys?
Mate, I thought the kid from Kurma had a really good game. Jackie Williams.
Up the Stallions.
I've been critical in the past, but had a really good game. I also thought Cam McInnes was fantastic in this one. Was really a game for... It's weird when you have a game where you win 48-10 or whatever and so many middle forwards stand up and have really good games. It was very unusual. But Hazelton as well, we spoke about him. Was he in our team of the week, Hazelton? He was tremendous.
Jeez, isn't he just someone that excites you? Yeah. Every year he gets under his belt, he's just going to get better. Yeah,
he'll just keep improving. So, look, as I said, I wasn't overly impressed with the Sharkies and their performance, but there's a lot of middle forwards that had good games there for sure.
I thought it was one of Dale Finucane's better games this year. 144 metres, 2 tackle breaks, 22 tackles, 0 misses. He's struggled a little bit for form this year. Hasn't been at his best, but I thought this was probably his best outing in a bit. Anyone stand out for you, Timmy?
It was the bench middles that Guru just mentioned. I thought Jackie Williams, Tom Hazelton, Cam McInnes, their impact off the bench was tremendous, I thought. The Doggies' middle defence, it was soft. There were some soft tries that through, but them boys were destructive. You said, Tommy Hazelton, every time he plays, just looks destructive every run. Yeah. And I love Jack sort of had some injuries. I think it was a pec last year that saw him miss a big chunk of it and missed a few games here and there. But just he's a big body, but got quite good late footwork at the line. So particularly when you are going forward, got a bit of momentum, good for a quick play of the ball. I thought all three of them were tremendous there.
Thought Blake Briley was really good too. Did a number of very good things. He was really good. Lethal. Yeah.
And try involvements, just getting better at probing around the ruck. He's someone that, I still don't think he's at his potential yet. I think that he's just going to get more and more confident each year. He had 3 try assists on the weekend.
He was great.
He was really... And his service is so silky, just crisp service.
And there was a few times too where, he might have got the try assist, but he created the opportunity on the play before that led to them getting on the front foot. Yeah. He's had a very good game. There's one more Brayley coming through as well, coming through their junior grades, who's a hooker as well. So it'd be great if we can get all 3 of them in first grade.
Well, interestingly, Blake played 66 minutes. So even he's getting rotated.
I just saw it,
Yeah.
So
it must be...
I don't know if... Do you have a HIA maybe?
Well, McInnes probably came on and played a bit.
They might have just pulled him off late because of the scoreline.
Yeah,
I don't remember. But durability-wise, you look at his poor old brother up in Newcastle has had a wretched run of injuries. But Blake, last 3 seasons, 13 games this year, 24 year before that, 24 year before that, and through those years he's averaged 78 to 79 minutes, like just rock solid. For a small body playing big minutes at number 9.
And it's not like hide away from work at all.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like you're sitting there going, oh, he doesn't get involved. Like how old is he now? 24?
Don't know.
Yeah.
24. Yeah.
24.
Yeah, 24. So just having that many runs under your belt, like imagine the match fitness that he's just got in his body now.
He's too good looking for a hooker too. Just
it's true. Very true.
Did he get a start in your hot boy team start of the year or not?
Well, I don't think so, actually.
Who's
So
your
it's a hard, mate. It's a hard team to make. Well, Connor Watson was 9.
Yeah, fair.
Come on, mate. Come on, mate. I'm the coach for a reason, mate.
Not critiquing, just asking.
Look, you might know a bit about Super Coach. I know a bit about hot guys, all right?
I'll never question you again.
Did you get a chance to watch Trindle's performance in reserve grade?
No.
Be interesting to see how he's going. Matty Moylan was probably better this week, but I still don't think he didn't set the world alight. He got through his tackles though, 14 tackles, 2 misses. Again though, the question is like, of course Matty Moylan can take on the doggies. Like what's he going to do against the top tier sides? And what is that left edge going to do against the top tier sides?
Yeah. I do feel a bit sorry for Moylan at times. I feel like as soon as he plays 1 or 2 bad games, I feel like a lot of people just pretend like he's always been shit all of a sudden.
No, that's crazy. As in, like, I agree with you. That's
I just feel like when Moyser isn't great for 2 weeks, people jump on him like he's never been great.
Yeah,
he hasn't
that's
played
true.
well at all. You know what I mean?
You're right. He doesn't get enough appreciation. Like Hines doesn't win Dally M without him last year.
He becomes a scapegoat very quickly.
It looks like Trindle had a pretty mixed game. Scored a couple of tries, but had a couple errors and missed tackles as well.
Okay.
That's your stats.
Got up 24-16 though and scored a pair. Guru's boy, KL Iro, 255 metres, 13 tackle busts.
God, stop it.
That's sensible.
One try.
And that's the thing with the Sharkies.
He only scored 1.
1 try, 1 try assist in a 24-16 win.
I don't know if he played a half.
And that's the thing with the Sharkies. Like, they've just got so much depth and they've got all the ingredients. It's just about putting together. So, yeah, look, they did what they were supposed to do. And they're going to have to face this pressure and questions until they face a top 8 side. Until they beat a top 8 side, it's just going to be this constant. And it's unfair, but at the same time, they haven't beaten a top 8 side. So, of course, it's going to be a question. But, yeah, they did what they were supposed to. Now, on to tips. St. George versus the New Zealand Warriors. Where are we going?
I'll take the Wars.
Warriors.
Dolphins versus the Eels.
Where's this one at? Shit. I'll go Parramatta.
Finn's got anyone coming back? Kafusi?
Yeah,
Kafusi was back.
Kafusi.
Sean O'Sullivan's not far off either. You know what? I'll go the Finns.
I'll go Para.
I'm going to go the Eels because, like, if Mitchell Moses plays badly, he'll be angry. If he plays well, he'll be confident as shit.
Flying.
So it's like he's probably going to have a good game. Yeah. Panthers versus the Knights.
Penrith.
Penrith.
Yeah, Penrith. Storm versus Sea Eagles.
Melbourne.
Storm.
Broncos versus Titans.
Brisbane.
Broncos.
Rabbitohs versus Cowboys.
Bunnies.
Rabbits.
Have they? So will Trell be back?
Not sure. Probably not. To be honest.
It's like it's 3 days. They play the Saturday, so 3 days after or 4 days
Sunday.
after Origin. So you'd think if he was out of Origin, playing 4 days later with the calf.
The only reason why I'm thinking of Cowboys is because we've gone all the same tips.
I went the Finns, mate.
Finns. Rabbitohs. Roosters, Raiders.
I'm gonna.
Roosters $1.55.
Yeah, taking the piss.
Yeah. I'm gonna take the Raiders.
I'm Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders.
Raiders.
How are the Raiders 245 in there?
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. We'll see how we go. That could be a genius. You get that right. That's the.
Wouldn't that be the redemption story for myself and just mending my relationship with Dolphin supporters? I've shown faith in them. You boys all gone against them, and they win me my 14th week of the season.
All right, Beers and Break Evens, 3 p.m. Wednesday. As usual, I'll go and fuck myself.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.